It's also easier to write on. Well, thank you very much. I'll leave it there for later.
You call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, review the agenda. We have 4 sets of minutes to review. President's remarks, reports, general manager, status of charter amendment, Dave Stevens, public comment, new business, motion from Marty Clark, actions to be taken regarding association members who failed to pay their due charges in excess of $5,000. ARC decision appeal from Al Wendling, application. Committee appointments, many different ones of those. The advisory committees, CPI actions, media questions, and then adjourn for a closed session for contractual matters. Any changes or adjustments?
Yes, Mr. President, I have 2.
Yes.
Under the appointments list, under aquatics, we have Kathy Grimes. Please add Tom Staus, S-T-A-U-S-S.
Okay.
And under CPI actions, please note that we are going to hold the CPI actions that were scheduled for this meeting until next meeting, and that we will provide CPI action reports to every member of the board at the time before the meeting to look at those CPI violations, if that's acceptable.
Those changes acceptable?
Yeah, that means that this won't be presented.
No, that'll be presented.
Oh, this week.
That's fine. Oh, that's fine. Okay. Let's move on to the minutes. You can do these separately or in mass. What's your preference?
Yeah, somehow.
Any changes to either October 27th, November 6th, November 28th, or January 8th? Motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. My remarks today are in relation to us losing another member of our community who has been a very energetic member of our community. Linda Earl has passed away. For all of you who have had a chance to work with Linda or have her call you on the phone, she was straightforward, honest, very forthright, and extremely energetic and well-informed. We will miss her and her energy in this community. And I will, at this point, kind of suspend the rules a little bit. And for a couple minutes, if some other folks would like to add something to that, I feel comfortable doing that. Joe, I know she was a big part of it. You were doing it up, so you were going to have to open that up.
Linda Earl, you're right, she was, just on.
Yeah.
Linda Earl, she was very energetic. She was one of the first people that joined Ocean Pines Forum back around 2004 or so. I was constantly on the forum. I think it was her, in her later years especially, when she wasn't able to get out, she saw the forum as her lifeline to the world, and she would communicate with people. And I guess if I could say something along the veins of a little bit of a joke, I think Linda probably called, well, she called you a lot, I'm sure, but you were probably way down on the list, and MediaCom was at the top of the list.
It's probably true.
Because Linda over there, I believe they're on the south side somewhere, over around King Richard or whatever it was. The lines were bad in the ground over there, and they were constantly having trouble with MediaCom. And Linda was, they'd be visiting her home about 10 times a week. a couple times a day. But at any rate, Linda will be missed. There are a number of people on the forum who have known Linda for a long time. Some of them have never met Linda, and yet they were close friends in that virtual world. And in many ways, they're just as strong a friendship as face-to-face. And Linda will be missed.
Yeah, I'd like to. I had the honor of serving with Linda on STOP. STOP Ocean Pines Group. And she will be missed. She was about as energetic as they get. And we'll all miss her.
Okay.
I'm Sharon Conley, and when I moved here, I somehow got on the forum and I learned about Linda, and then we became friends with a couple other women. We were the forum girls, and we hadn't ever known each other. But Linda gave me courage to get on the forum and get on and ask around and get involved in the community, because I didn't know anybody when we came here. And little by little by little, Linda helped for me make this a real community where I felt like I could be a part of things, and that's the part of her that I'll really miss.
Linda, if you're hearing this, you're missed already. She was a good lady. Okay, with that cheery moment, but justifiable. She was an important person to us. Scott, General Manager.
All right. We've got a number of things to cover, a lot of ground. I'll move as quickly as you all want to go through it. I'm going to give you some quick highlights on some recent activities. Let's start with the road resurfacing. I've had a lot of calls about it. Our road resurfacing project that was approved, we've pretty much finished for the year what's going to be accomplished. The weather started to get too cold and the plant closed down. But Cape Town, Sandy Hook, White Horse Park Drive, Beacon Hill Road, Pinehurst, Lookout Point, and Teal Circle were all completed. The roads that will be accomplished in the spring, Boston Drive and an extension of Wood Duck Drive. Those are the last two. Spoke with the contractor about, just with the cold weather, the plant was about to shut down, and we don't want to take a chance to have a road, half of the road done or something. So we'll wait and just tackle it in the spring. So that's the road resurfacing that's been accomplished. Greens project. I just wanted to update you on the current condition of the Greens project. For those that have not been out to take a look at it, I thought I'd give you 4 or 5 real quick slides to show you how that project is progressing. And these are current holes. One is, the first step is to remove the existing soil content. The second is they start to put the new drains in. The soil content, all the current mix comes out. They pull all the pipes, they put the new piping in, and then they start to fill it with the gravel. This is where you'll notice in the back area is where the gravel's all finished and tamped down, and they're working back this way. That's the level of gravel that goes to help the drains in the new greens. This is the final coat before the sod. They do a final float to level everything, and now it's ready to receive the sod, and the sod starts being rolled out onto it. I gave it to you in sequential order just so you understand the project as it's going. Here are the holes or part where the project is right now. Holes 11, 15, 16, and 17 are complete, and they have sod on them. Hole 10 has that final gray, the floated area, and it will sod once it warms up just a little bit. Holes 13 and 18 are the next two to get cored out. In other words, they're primed and ready to go, and what they'll do is start digging those out. 14 in the putting green will follow that. I'm sorry, let me regroup. 13 and 18 have been cored, but the soil mix isn't in yet. And then 14 in the putting green will be next. And then 12 will be accomplished when the drainage work gets accomplished. Okay? So I've had some people ask where are we on that, so I thought I'd give you a quick update. Other things going on with golf, and it's in your packet. There has been a FCC regulation that changed the mandate, and basically what we're doing is we have to
This is
go.
the document that has Toro on the top
Yes.
of it.
We have to go from wideband radio to narrowband. And in your packet was we have a Toro system now. Okay? And does someone not have a copy? Because I have an extra copy if anybody needs it. Okay. Now, the only update I want to give you, that I was talking to Rusty about it when we were going through the bid. Now, this is something that was budgeted in the amount of 35. It's a budget item at 35,000. You'll see the upgrade of the system is 32,800. But in talking with Rusty, here's a revised sheet, and this is what we're going to recommend. In lieu of the 32, there was an option at 21,427. And what it does is it does not include a new computer system, the new link system that would attach to it, which isn't, you don't have to have that to operate it. The existing computer system actually does it. And again, we know that we've already dug a hole this year, so one of the things we've asked in each of the departments, when something comes up where we can save a little bit of money if it's not detrimental to our cause, we need to consider it. We can always go back and add, when the computer actually doesn't serve our purpose anymore, we can go back and update the computer itself. So the recommendation is to revise from the 32,800 to the 21,427.
Bob, what's that wideband stuff used for?
Irrigation system. It runs all the irrigation. The wideband is for the irrigation. They control when the irrigation comes off and on each hole, each section. The system actually can control specific heads. So if they're having they see an area where they need to add more water, or they have too much water, they can control sections, or even the newest system gives you individual head control. So that's going to require board action to purchase that equipment. We can no longer use the wideband system. We knew that. That's why we had budgeted for it. So we need to go ahead and do the upgrade. But again, it's above the yes.
Toro, the only guys that do this?
Yeah, Toro is our complete system that's in. So it is a single source system for us. We could bid out the whole project, but the numbers go a lot higher if we do that. Our existing system works fine. We just have to upgrade the chips and the modules to go to the narrow band. Anybody want to support it?
So
Or
we have 35,000, about 32,800 in the budget.
35 in the budget.
35 in
The
the
price
budget.
came in 32,800 for the full system. We're recommending 22 or 21 and change for it. We don't need the computers.
Are you looking for a motion for approval now?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
Then I'll make a motion that we accept this
At which level?
at the 21. Okay.
For a second. Dan, second. All right. discussion.
Are we paying cash for this, or are we using this 3-year, I guess it's a lease op, this?
No, the intent was to go ahead and pay for it. It's budgeted and just pay for it when as the work's completed.
What's the math on the 36 payment then? What does that
That's
come
what
out
I'm
to?
trying to figure out to come up right.
What's the math on which part?
The 36 payments at 663.18.
I didn't even do that.
Oh, that's a total, so there'd be about 2,400
An interest?
in interest.
2,400 in interest if you do the payment. Yeah,
Single source.
well, I mean, the reality is here, as I understand it, is it's single because the base system is a Toro system we already own in order to price it out, we'd have to price out the whole thing and rebuy something we've already got that works.
Correct.
That's my understanding of it.
That's what I'm hearing. I still don't like it.
Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, the other issue at golf that we're addressing is the cart issue. You know that we've had cart problems with the batteries. The batteries are at between the 3 and 4 year mark. That is an ongoing problem with the industry. One of the things that I elevated, and you all had the opportunity to meet all the Casper folks, I spoke not only with Dan Evers, who's really handling for multiple courses the same challenges we are with the batteries, and I was able to elevate and talk to Joel, and Joel said that they're working on it from a corporate level and asked if they could operate on our behalf, working with the Yamaha who we have now, look at Club Car, and E-Z-GO, because they're the three they're working with. I said, by all means, if there's a way you can help us solve the problem or at least offer a solution, we'd certainly consider it. So they are working that as an ongoing issue. But it's not just our course, apparently. That is an ongoing issue in general in the industry is the batteries.
Bob, do we own the carts that we have right now? Or
We do.
We own.
We own the carts. In fact, that was just an update. That way when it comes down the pike, you know that where it is. Okay, bridges. Bridges are the next thing I want to talk to you about. And this is a good spot. I want to introduce Jerry Aveda. Jerry, there he is. Jerry is our new facilities manager. I sent information out to you all when we hired him. Jerry's been with us about a month. And Jerry comes to us with a background. He's an engineering degree from BMI. He has over 30 years with the federal government in either acquisitions, planning, engineering, all the types of things that we were looking at. From the federal government side, the military side, he moved into, he decided he wanted to teach school for a couple of years. He tried that and found out that high school kids are a little different than what he expected. Am I putting words in your mouth, Jerry? He was very, very interested in getting back into engineering, but he did not want to travel back across to the D.C. area. So the timing worked for him, worked for us, and welcome, Jerry. Jerry's responsibilities, as we've talked about, and it was approved position in the budget, he's really going to help us focus on our facilities and infrastructure for planning purposes, for maintenance purposes, and replacement purposes as they arise. It'll allow us to continue that next step forward, especially since we're putting a lot of money out for facilities and infrastructure right now. Getting Jerry in now to make sure we're tracking it and managing it properly was a critical step, I think, in the future success of the organization. So we welcome Jerry.
May I ask a question? His office is in Public Works building?
His office is down Public Works.
Okay, and Jerry, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
One of the first tasks that I asked Jerry to look into was our bridges. We've received multiple bridge reports. I spent time with Mr. Rako talking about bridges. When I first stepped into the position, we've had updates from the county on bridges, and it was muddy water at best, trying to figure out exactly who was responsible and how it was going to get paid for. Jerry jumped into that in the deep end and really spent some time, went down to the county, met with a number of county officials, squared up our documentation. Now we have a real clear path on our bridges. So again, the first step, and it's a great jump for us. We have 4 bridges that are in the county road program. And people say, well, we have 3. It's actually 4. If you look at the bridges here, this is the inbound and outbound traffic, coming in the North Gate. That's technically 2 bridges that get evaluated. So that's where Clubhouse Drive and the one on the Parkway, they're the bridges that have been evaluated. An update for you. The 4 bridges were transferred to the county in January 2010 through the easement and the agreement. And the terms were the county to perform the annual maintenance inspections on the bridges. Ocean Pines is responsible for all of the maintenance on the bridges. Yes, sir.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but transfer is misleading, I think misleading at best. Didn't we just grant an easement to the bridges? We still own them, lock, stock, and barrel, right?
I'm more than happy to pull the agreement out and look at it. It wasn't meant to be misleading, transferred.
No, I didn't say you were gonna, it's just, it's hard for me to, that word says to me.
Turned
that we
over?
turned them over to the county.
Much like the roads were turned over.
Roads were never turned over, they were eased to the county.
Mr. Clark, whatever term you want to use, this is how we're going
There's a
to.
huge difference between owning something and granting
I will
easement.
provide you the turnover agreement, the
I wrote it.
bridge. Okay, then you know it.
The 88 bridge agreement, I wrote it.
Okay, so the 4 bridges are under a public easement with Worcester County dated January 19th, 2010.
No ownership was transferred.
No ownership was transferred. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
The rules are, we pay for the maintenance costs. The replacement of the bridges is split 80-20. County pays 80%, we pay 20%. Where we are currently with the bridges.
Hey, Bob, back,
Yes.
maybe I'm jumping ahead, sorry, but the difference between maintenance and replacement, who makes the decision, or is that what's coming up?
Well, I can tell you now, it's coming up. It's the difference comes in with when the bridge inspection is completed. There are items that are identified, maintenance items.
Right.
There is a rating for each bridge. Based on the bridge rating, that determines how soon it's going to be before we have to replace the bridge. Okay.
Another question. What about, we also have another bridge that we don't own that clearly can affect our community, the Route 90 bridge. That overpass on Route 90.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
State road.
Yes, that's a
State maintained. Yes, sir.
That's, we don't have to do anything there at all, just to make sure I'm clear. We're not,
No, we've painted. We've cleaned up and painted.
we've touched up, but nothing more than that.
No, sir. It's a state. Okay.
Yep.
We've prepared a request. We're going to go out to RFP for the maintenance work that has been identified in the bridge reports. We're going to match up exactly what the maintenance says that we need to accomplish, and we'll send an RFP out. Jerry's been very good we spoke with the county officials, spoke with the company that did the most recent engineering studies on the bridges, and they were very helpful. They don't do any bridge repair work, but they gave us a list of names of folks that do. So we're going to put an RFP together and send it out as we would with any to get that repair work accomplished. Yes, sir.
Could any of this be done in-house? I mean, I read the reports, a lot of it was light bulbs and signs.
We are going to divide the work up. There are some, the minor work we will take care of ourselves, like I said, light bulbs and signs and such. The major work we'll have an outside bridge company. And Eddie Wells and Jerry have sat down, they've mapped out exactly what we feel we're capable of doing and what we think we need to bid at.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please clarify for me which bridges are we talking about? All 4 of them?
All 4 bridges get reviewed every year, and they actually get looked at a couple times a year by the county. The reports are then provided to us, and then the maintenance is our responsibility, and that's for all 4 bridges. Jerry has met with the county, Water and Wastewater Division. The plan is they're starting to pre-plan the moving of the utilities. One of the things that we want to look at with the one, particularly on the Parkway, where the blue piping with the utility line, we want to, if we're going to have to do repairs and maintenance there, we'd like to get that relocated so it's not on the top part of the bridge. Plan with Worcester County for design and construction of the Clubhouse Drive Bridge. That is the bridge that's been identified in the worst shape of the 4. It's not due for replacement now, but in the next 2 to 3, am I correct when I say, Jerry? 2 to 3 years, it will need replacement. We're starting that process now so for budgeting purposes and to make sure we don't get a surprise by it. That's the current status with the, yes, sir.
Question on the bridges with respect to deciding on what maintenance is required, and then have we met the maintenance requirements? You mind explaining that process?
When the bridge reports are accomplished, it's broken down by the levels of maintenance and what needs to be done by the inspector, the engineer. And it's clearly lined up in the report, and we're taking the ones that have to be done. There's three primary categories. The first two are the most important, the immediate and the priority. Immediate means we need to get to it now. Safety priority, we need to get to it fairly quickly, but it's not as pressing from a safety standpoint. We're addressing the immediate and the priority ones because it's been some time since we've done any bridge work. So the RFP of $135,000 plus or minus based on how the work comes in is specifically by each of the 4 bridges and what those requirements from the bridge engineer had provided.
Okay, the bridge engineer is actually hired by the county and,
Yes, sir.
and does the inspection for the county. Do we have to then have the county re-inspect after the work is done to make sure that it meets their requirements?
So they
Very
do
clear.
that in the inspection cycle?
During the regular 6-month inspection cycle, right?
Whenever they're due for the next
Okay,
inspection.
I'm just trying to find out how closely we have to work with the county to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done. We don't get burned after we've done work and they decide it's not up to snuff.
Sure. Well, and that's where Jerry's already forging those relationships to make sure we're doing it in coordination with the county officials. Like you said, so we don't get caught doing something we didn't need to or it's not meeting their requirements.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just make sure it's clear
Sure.
on my own mind. We have no, we were going to spend about $135,000 and go out for bid, do maintenance on all 4 bridges.
Yes, sir.
We're not going to replace any bridges at the current time.
Correct.
The bridge that is in the worst condition and looks like it might have to be replaced is Clubhouse Drive, and I think it said 3 years.
Yes. 2 to 3 years.
3 years.
Yes, sir.
And do you have any estimate on what after we spend this money, the lifetime of the remaining bridges, you think?
Do not at this point. And Jerry, can you help me on that one? The question comes in, if we're spending the money on the bridges, on the Clubhouse Drive, the one that's 2 to 3, how does that impact the longevity of the bridge, right? Does it have any impact?
Right. In other words, we're
Jerry,
down
come up
to-
to the microphone so we can.
Yeah, and we see him too. That's him, okay.
That's him.
There we go. What I'd like to know is, we do the maintenance, and assuming we'll continue to do whatever maintenance is required, when it's required, what is the lifetime of the bridges? I mean, what can we expect?
I mean, as we meet the maintenance repair standards that the
Yes.
county is, I think their standard is to ultimately, brand new, is like a 40 or 50 year life cycle. So, given that we could restore the bridge to perfect condition, we'd be expecting that. But so if we replace that bridge, the bridge that Bob was just talking about, we would have a 40 or 50 year life expectancy. The other bridges are some increment of that. I mean, we're trying to keep them. Well, let me answer it this way. The other 3 bridges, their BSR rating, which is the replacement rating, are in the high 60s or 70s. They have to get below 50 before they're considered for replacement. So usually they don't degrade more than a few increments a year. So, based on that experience, I think the existing bridges are good for quite a while yet. I mean,
Quite a while, in 10, 15,
10,
20 years,
15 years,
something like
right,
that.
right.
May I ask, I thought the North Great Gate Bridge has been replaced several years ago. Am I right on that? You never replaced it?
We've had work done, maintenance to it.
Okay, but never replaced it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, so that's the bridge update. Yacht Club. Here's where we'll get a little deeper in a couple of things. We had as you all know, we had damage to the Yacht Club pool. What I have for you is the reports that I'm going to hit some highlights for you in these reports, or lowlights, depending on how you want to perceive them. The first one will be the engineering. I have one for you, I promise. One would be the engineering report. Yes, sir. And these are for you to keep. I'll hit you some highlights. We had the storm damage, as everyone knows. The pool basically elevated, cracked, leaked water. The first report that you have is the engineering report. Soule and Associates. A couple of things I want to point out in the report, and again, this is for yours to take home and read, but fact indicates that the water in the pool drained out after Sandy either through cracks in the structure or broken pipes. The second page gives some areas of concern about the age of our existing pool. Over the years, it's likely that the water has penetrated the walls and the floor of the pool, corroding the reinforcement and leaching cement from the structure. Considering the marine environment that the pool has existed in for 40 years, problems with the structure can be expected to increase in the future. Repairs, the uncertainty of damages. You can assume that the cost involved will be significant. The pool cannot be returned to its pre-storm condition, and the age of the pool guarantees rising maintenance costs in the future. So I just pointed some highlights out from the engineering report. That's what's led to the next couple steps for me. Knowing that we had the damage, we reached out to our insurance company, which is Selective, and you have a copy of the letter back from Selective. Summary of Selective's position. From Selective, we do not afford the insurance coverage for this claim, so basically they're not covering the claim. If you go further, can you show that? Put that in your packet. We can put the email. Okay. There's an email in your packet from our adjuster, and they validated it. Okay. The first one was from our Selective telling us it's not covered. The second one is our insurance agent, and they did a double review on this. The second two lines: because of the pools being excluded or ineligible from the federal flood program, we've been unable to find any carrier that can provide flood insurance for the pools as a primary basis. Most carriers who provide excess flood coverage require that there to be other primary insurance which act as deductibles for the excess carrier. But in this case, we can't write the policy with the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Plan, because they will not cover the pools. Basically, what it ends up being is we have flood insurance, but it'll cover the yacht club as an example, but it doesn't cover the separate structure of pool. So this is where our insurance said no go on the insurance side.
So if I'm reading this, the first time I've seen it, as I'm reading this, does this say to me that not only wasn't it covered, there was really no place to buy coverage?
Correct.
So we couldn't have bought coverage even if we wanted to pay for it?
Unless it's a primary policy, and because of the location of the club, the primary is the National Flood policy on the yacht club.
Right.
And there's two loopholes. This is one of the loopholes with the National Flood Insurance Plan. They don't cover pools. That's how Mr. Wisniewski, our insurance adjuster, explained it, and that's what First Selective explained. They don't cover it under those conditions. We followed up with it to make sure, is there any, and they said no, it's not covered.
Well, as you can assume, there were more than a few people wondering why we didn't have insurance coverage on the pool, and now we know why.
Yes.
But we did have insurance for the pool, just not flood insurance.
Not flood
Because
insurance.
the damage was.
Because the storm surge and the flood. That's correct. Yes.
That nobody around here could have flood insurance on their house or pool.
Unable to get flood insurance on the pools. Yes, sir.
Well,
That's it's a
And that's
primary, and the primary is with the yacht club for us.
and the primary is only the national flood insurance.
Yeah, for flood, yes, sir.
Are there other sources of flood insurance?
According to Mr. Wisniewski, no, they can provide the insurance we need. Now, I'm not an agent. I can't tell you can't buy it from State Farm, Allstate, whomever. I just don't know from a commercial policy. And Mr. Wisniewski does policies for a number of carriers, so we're not stuck with one. The neat part is he's able to search them all out.
You can insure anything.
If you pay enough.
Okay, the next piece that I want to cover for you is in lieu of the damage, in lieu of the engineering report, what we did was say, okay, let's look at the entire project. Let's take it down into pieces. And the first piece is obviously the pool itself. We have pool damage and we had deck damage. If you recall in the 11-12 budget, and you may or may not recall, but 11-12 budget, we budgeted $600,000 to replace the pump house and the decking itself. Okay, you remember that. So it was done because we knew, the pump house has been below grade for many, many years. We get heavy rain, heavy storms. The pumps actually get covered with water. It's not the best design. It was our intent to replace those. We elected back then not to move forward with replacing those until we knew what we were going to do with the yacht club itself, the main project, because it could have an impact on the design, the layout, any of those type of things. So we elected to delay that. Fast forward to today, it was our intent in the next couple of years to go back and take a second look at the pool and do something with it. The damage from Hurricane Sandy has accelerated that. With that being said, we put an RFP, request for proposal, out to have pool companies come in, take a look at, and the RFPs in your
One
package.
clarification before we get too far. The budget that had the $600,000 in it was not this year's budget.
No, sir.
It was 2020,
11-12 budget.
not
Fiscal-
12-13.
No, sir.
And a lot of things have transpired since that budget. And it's not in that
Actually,
budget.
in the
No,
budget.
so I said it's not in the. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're, okay.
So, but the whole point for sharing that is the fact we knew we were going to have to do some work over there at some point, so much so that it got approved in the budget. That's all. It's something we had identified that we needed to address at some point. The hurricane has accelerated that. We have an RFP that went out where we're bidding out the pool and the pump room. This is where we go to the next step, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where my recommendation is moving forward. All right, we have the pool and the pump house that we're replacing. When we looked at, we have decking that needs to be done. We're going to have to do site work. We're going to have to obviously remove fencing to get to the decking, to get to the pool to do the work. We're going to have to do work under the pool area, bulkhead work, all those type of things. So our first thing was we said, all right, what I did was reach out to the Harkins contractor who we partnered with on the yacht club side and said, one of the things we looked at when we were doing site planning was, if you remember, I kept using the term campus for each of our areas. The campus at the yacht club, when we did our site planning, was inclusive of the entire area. We had to take into our calculations for parking, for soil erosion, for stormwater management, the entire area and how it would be used. That was inclusive of the pool area. So we've had the fortunate enough to have that type of site work already completed and in the calculations. Now with the damage, we had to go back and do some modifications inclusive of the work. So I reached out to Don at Harkins, and Don Smith is here. So Don. Hi, Don. So if I say anything incorrect, please raise your hand and jump in on me. So we reached out to them and said, look, knowing the pool has to be replaced, knowing that you're already doing the major project being the yacht club, tell me how and what you would do to tackle the issue of the pool, the decking, the pump house, and so on. In doing that, I think that we're picking up synergies in a lot of different ways. Let me give you some of the bullet points. And again, they're in your slides, but continuity by working with the Harkins contractor. We typically will bid out any significant amount of work. But since the majority of the work's being done on the yacht club, which is inclusive of electrical, utilities, site prep for the yacht club itself, demolition of the yacht club, it made sense for me to turn to Harkins, since we'd already agreed to partner with them, and say, hey, help me out, tell me where we go from here. as I started to make a list of things that impacted us and why I think it's a good move for us. The continuity of continuing to work with them ensures that the continuity of the entire campus remains the same. All the elements are pulled together to include all the utilities, the pedestals for the electrical. Over the years, we've patched and pieced so many things together. When they were trying to do their site prep work to figure out what went where, it's a hodgepodge. We've had to have utility companies out multiple times just to lay out piping or figure out where the tank lines are, the utility lines as a whole. They've already been working that for us. Coordination of the soil erosion control, the stormwater drawings have all been completed because that was part of what we asked them to do with the initial part of the project. So I think that we saved some engineering costs and in their calculations there. If we choose to go to another company, if we said we're going to bid this part out, they're going to have to do their own. They can't rely on because they're going to have to warrant their work. NOI has already been submitted for the project. When I say the project, the Yacht Club project, the advantage of working with Harkins as we continue, they just modify what was submitted. NOI, notice of intent, for the work that we're going to be doing over there. Difference is a new company has to resubmit a new NOI with their work, their calculations. Coordination of sanitary sewer service. They've already been working with the county with like I said, all the utilities, what needs to be done. They have a plan, a phased plan to address the yacht club as it is and separate the different elements. So this stepped right into what they had already been working on. The coordination of all the utilities I've talked about a couple times. They've already had those scheduled to do some realignment of those utilities as part of the Yacht Club new facility process. So this feeds right into that. If we were to change direction or say, okay, we're going to bid out that side of the building, we would have to go back and restructure the phasing of the entire project. The current team is able to modify the current submittals not with the county, with the state. If we went to another company, we'd have a minimum of a 60-day by the time we create the RFP, send the RFP out, bid the work, make a selection. That has a significant impact on our current construction phasing schedule because it's all part of the same project or the same campus area. So separating those becomes a challenge for us, for the county, and when we submit for state approvals. That's where I was just talking about that in the phasing part of it, the sequential phasing. I'm going to show you some of the phasing. Public safety is an issue. I had someone actually ask me about that. One thing that is a plus for us working with Harkins, you have one contractor managing the site through all the phases. If you start to go to multiple GCs for different parts of it, you don't have a single source to manage the entire project. You're dealing with multiple GCs managing the project.
So is the RFP for the pool, I have obviously read it because I just got it.
Right.
Does it imply they're under the coordination of Harkins?
Well, what my recommendation is going to be, we bid out the work. We being Ocean Pines will receive the bids. Once we select our contractor, we will make that selection. What the intent would be to assign that contract to Harkins, let Harkins remain as the GC, the general contractor for the entire project, and have the pool companies that are going to be working it, instead of us trying to coordinate with them and with Harkins, if we assign it to them, Harkins can manage the job. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, finally got to it. If I understand it, what you're proposing is that we enlist, actually hire Harkins as the GC, a general contractor who would oversee, as we would oversee, the individual pool contractor and that development. The pool contractor would be still selected on open bid.
Yes, sir.
Harkins will. So it's basically bringing in another element, another company to do work that in the past we might have done ourselves.
Yeah, with the exception, though, what I'm asking is, and my recommendation to you is to let Harkins do all of the remaining site work, the decking, the reconstruction of the pump house because we have to elevate it, the reconstruction of the fencing.
Okay,
All
so you
the-
don't want to bid that part of that. Okay.
No, because they're already doing the site work. It's part of the plan. I'm going to show you the phases to help clarify it a little bit. They're coming up in the next couple of slides to help clarify stuff. But it's part of the overall site work that's being presented. I could pull the pool out because it made sense to pull that part out and bid it out because they would work with a third-party contractor to do that anyway. So it made sense for us to go ahead and move forward with that. The bigger challenge is how do we want to accomplish the site work? Okay, it's being delivered in phases, okay, and I have the plans here. I put it up on the board so the folks here could see, but it's also in your packages. One of the things with construction is you have to submit a phase plan to the county. How you're going to proceed with your construction, how you're going to either shut down or modify existing conditions, and then keep the public safe through this. Some things I want to point out to you. Phase 1, and on your plan, and I'm highlighting it here for you, see the dotted line. That is considered Phase 1 on the north side of the building. This is part of Phase 1 on the south side of the yacht club, the dotted line. That's inclusive in Phase 1 that is submitted with the phase plan. Phase 2, and again, I'm giving to you what's been submitted for the county for approval, because when you're doing a site like this, you have to give it to them in phases, how we're going to adjust the work. Phase 2, this side of the building, which is included of the pump house, the decking, the pool itself, and the initial for the parking is all complete. Phase 2, and not the top coat, not the final coat, but Phase 2 refocuses to this section, and there's an element right here that's been pulled out of Phase 2, and that's where these fuel tanks have been relocated. So Phase 2 of the work, okay, the fuel tanks have already been relocated, which means they're operational for the marina, and this is what happens for the remainder of the summer. They're working on this phase. This whole side is complete, and the goal is to have that complete by mid-May. I'm going to give you a schedule, and Mr. Rako's here. I've been working with Bill Rako, Ted Maroney, our Public Works, Jerry Veda, to go over to make sure I'm not missing anything. We've got a lot of smarter people than I on construction involved in it to make sure that this is even probable. Can we do it? And does it make sense to go single source versus bidding out for the major part of the project? Phase 3, okay, is what happens Phase 3. This is where the existing club is now. That gets demoed, okay, that gets taken down. And the rest of the site, which is the paving and the tightening up of getting this part of the building gets finished, and then the repaving, that's Phase 3. So you have a 3-phase project when you're talking about demo, construction, and build for the new yacht club, and then how it fits with everything out there. It's important you have to give a very detailed phase how things are going to occur to the county before they'll approve it, because they're looking at safety to the patrons, they're looking at connectivity, utilities. Have we missed anything? Are we going to get involved in a project and then have a problem? So we've been working through that. Our Harkins team, along with AWB engineers, have already been working it, because if you recall, we talked about site planning for the entire site when we went into tackle this. Okay, something I want to point out to you before I show you the timeline. Here's the existing yacht club building. Here's the existing pool. This is the side we're talking about. This point here, okay, for the westerly side of it, that is the current back facility. So when you come up on the deck, on the left side, the current bathrooms, showers, bathrooms, men's and women's. On the outside of it, you have 2 or 3 showers that actually run up the side of the building for people to rinse off before they get in or out of the pool. This is the side we're looking at where we're going to make the improvement, i.e. raise the pump house. Another element when we were looking at this that had been brought to my attention when we were laying out our plans, when we were getting to the point of approval for the referendum, something that we had not included, we actually operate a marina there. 2 big groups, I went to their meetings and found out that we missed something. And that was we didn't address, either with the Power Squadron or the Boat Club, the needs of what a true marina brings. A marina brings your showers and bathrooms associated specifically for the marina area. Knowing that, when I started to look at this, I said, is there a way to utilize this space a little differently and meet the needs of 2 rather large groups in our community, because we are a boating community. What we did was, working with AWB through Harkins, okay, let me back up. I want to show you so you're all right, this is what we're talking about. This is the dock, the lower dock area. Okay? This is the lower dock area. Just so you know, it's rotated. This area on this side, Osprey Point, here's where the pool will be, and then the yacht club ends up being up here, just so we have our bearings straight. Okay, the pump house, which is in the center, actually gets elevated. The pump room to run the pool water filter, those type of things. On the east side, or the side that has access to the docks, the proposal is to put in a bathroom facility with showers, which you're looking at here, and you have it in print in front of you. There are 3 shower stalls with a sink on this side, and there's a ladies' and men's room on this side. What this would allow for is, because it's accessible by the dock, is the boaters, the boating community. You're out fishing for the day, and you want to come in and have a light tea, but you want to shower up or change before you come in. You don't have to actually go through the building to use the facilities. You actually have separate facilities identified for the use of our marina folks. So we're able to take advantage. We're trying to be smarter about the overall design. Okay, I had Harkins speaking with AWB engineers. I said, look, take our existing plan that we already had mapped out and show me what it would look like if we re-accomplish the pool. So I asked them to do it. I hope everyone can see that. So what they did was lay out, this is where I think part of the synergy of sticking with the same contractor who's doing the major facility for us. They're all doing all the paperwork. It's a continuation for the entire project. Different view. This would be from the dock side. Osprey Point would be at our back, and we're looking at our pool. You notice the fencing that I've asked them to put in their pricing. It's the same aluminum fencing that we've been putting in. We have swim and racket club pool, that black metal aluminum fencing. So everything, again, I think we're moving in a better direction with this. Here's elevated. If you're looking at yacht clubs on this side, and you're looking down from here, this is what the new structure will look like. One of the things I want to point out to you is, by doing this, there's a gap existing now between the 2 buildings. That gap gets filled in, but this structure itself ends up looking the same design elements of the yacht club. When they elevate that and they put the roof on it, they're going to match the roof here, and we're going to put the same split face rock on the bottom, or facade on it, and put the hardy plank wrapping the building. It currently has stucco or driver on the outside of the building.
Yes, let me ask you.
Okay.
When I'm looking at this picture, is this the entrance
Yes, sir.
into the shower room you were
Yes,
just
sir.
talking about? This is the pump area now, and these are the restrooms for the pool?
The remaining restaurant, they're there now. Yes,
So
sir.
the pool folks don't have to go in and use this, and the other guys don't have to use that?
No, sir. The other thing is, what we're going to do on the pool side, we're eliminating the pipes that run on the outside of the building for the showers. What our intent is to put the new pools have the pedestal that comes out of the ground, and there's 5 or 6 heads that go around, because all you're doing is rinsing off as you go in and out. The proposal is to put pedestal right in this area, so we're not continuing to get the rust, water stains, and stuff on the building.
Yes, the center part with the pool pump house, that access is from the deck of the pool.
It's going to have access from both sides. One side for the back side for loading when you're bringing chemical, the front side so you're able to pull the.
And then the open side where the boat traffic might be, that is open. If I remember your design, there's not a solid door there. They can go choose to use the shower, or they can use the restroom facility.
Yeah, we're going to look at two folds there, putting a door on the outside, potentially the push-button cipher lock. And again, these are operational. We'll get to those, but that's one option where if you rent a boat slip from us, we give you your cipher lock. So anytime you're on your boat, you want to go over and use the restroom, you just type it in and go. The other thing is potentially not having a door there and just the 5 doors inside and having them lockable from the end. You have a open hallway there. So there's a couple different ways to do that. That hasn't, the final stage on that hasn't. Again, we're sort of in the proposal stage to you guys.
You're way ahead of us, Sean. I haven't seen any of this.
Well, he's just showing us.
Oh, no, I thought we were referring to something we'd seen already.
No,
All right.
the site plan right before,
Oh, okay.
showing the,
Oh, the doors. Okay.
All right, here's a different elevation of it so you can see. And I threw this in today because someone, Art and I were sitting there doing it. He said, well, where's the bocce ball court? There's still room. The bocce ball court didn't disappear. So I threw a red rectangle. Michelle, correct me on that.
So the concept is the boaters.
The boaters, yeah, go ahead, please ask. The boaters who are on all the docks out here, instead of having to go in the facility to use the restrooms,
Yeah.
they're going to be able to walk right down here and go into this structure and use not only restroom but a shower to change.
So they're putting their boats in, tying them up along the side there. We're not talking about bringing them into their slip or anything.
Well, no, if someone has a slip, Joe Costello, let's use him, and he's not here, so I'm going to pick on him a little bit, but he goes out fishing at 6 in the morning, comes back, he's all dirty, but he wants to go up to the club and have a drink afterwards. He got lucky and hit some fish that day. He's cleaned them up when he came in, but he didn't want to go home and change. He can just walk right down there, use that, bring a change of clothes.
It's an extension of the pool showers to be used for boaters.
It's on the building, yes, sir. I say on the building because the pool folks have their own showers on this side and accessibility from this side. These are accessible from the dock side. Yeah, you're not going to be able to pass straight through because in the middle is the pump room, right in this area. Now, a lot of moving parts here. I know I've thrown a lot at you. And I asked Mr. Rayco, I appreciate him being here today. One of the things that following our meeting Friday when I got this information, and Bill, you're going to be much smarter at explaining your Gantt chart. Do you mind doing that?
No.
Can I ask you to?
Yep.
And I've printed a copy.
You need a mic?
No, I think they can hear you, sir.
All right. Hold on 1 second, Bill. Did we get a copy of this? Because there's no way I can read this.
I got one right here for you.
Where's your pointer?
Right on top. And one thing I want to point out, well, as Mr. Rayco gets started here, I've got a copy for each of you. And they roll up. But one of the things that was important, and I want to make sure I point this out to you, he being Bill Rayco was probably the biggest, doubter that we can... Skeptic about pulling this project off the way we proposed it, okay? A lot of moving parts, and as you all know, Mr. Rayco's extensive work here in the community with this building, being on the board, as well as a builder, he brought a unique perspective to this.
Okay, I have not been involved in the pool or the yacht club project since the summer of 2011, really. And I got involved again last month when Bob asked me to review a draft of the RFP. The new facilities manager was involved, and we have some sample RFPs Ted and I did, so we got back involved in this thing. Ted's been more involved all along than I have, but I've been watching the news and seeing this January start and all these kind of things. I'm going, how's this going to happen? And so Ted and I worked up a whole bunch of hard questions. We checked at the county what's been done already. We attended a meeting last week with Harkins and AWB, and I worked up this Gantt chart here, which reflects some of the stuff that Bob said. The blue line on top are the phases. Phase one's already started, really, and it goes till the 25th of May, and then Memorial Day there. Phase 2 starts, it goes to Labor Day, and then Phase 3 goes from a few days after Labor Day until completion. So you can see that everything should be completed except the punch work, which would be in January of 2014. The next line talks about the pool itself, and you can see the red there is the RFP. It's out. My eyes are bad here. Okay. And then once the contract's signed, that's site prep, excuse me. The RFP's out. The contract there, we've got hopefully, what's that, the 29th? This big blue star? Okay. Then the site prep, which will be done by Harkins. That's in red. And then the work on the pool itself, you can see that underneath. Harkins said they can get the site prep ready by the 1st of March and be finished by the 1st of April. Yes, Barney.
So 129 is the start date of the pool?
129, that star is when we hope to have the contract signed, because no work can begin, actual work other than design work, until these guys have a contract in their hand, right? Right.
Gotcha, but you haven't gotten all the bids until the 31st.
The only bid you're going to get, well, you're going to get 2 bids. You're going to get a bid from Harkins and a bid from the pool guy.
It's sole source to Harkins for everything except the actual.
Pool itself and the pump system. This is what this.
Well, you won't have the pool bids
Well,
to pick a pool contract until
Well,
after.
If I could
it's signed.
clarify, the 29th would be our contract with Harkins for the site work. If you move to 2/7, that's when we actually would like to award the contract for the pool.
Okay.
And again, the reason I think this works, and Mr. Aco had provided it, it shows where it works together.
I thought to myself, this isn't going to work. There's too many moving parts, so you have to lay it out. And we dealt with these guys and found out when everything's going to be done. Okay. The decision on I think, Marty, I didn't bring mine. So the decision, I think, on the pool itself is going to be the 7th of February.
Yes, sir.
And immediately after that will be a contract, which they're already working on, a contract for the pool people that'll be integrated into the Harkins contract.
All this is assuming that the board is going to accept it.
Exactly.
No bid, $600,000.
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that the same question I asked.
Should we take a straw vote now or continue to waste time?
It'd be nice.
I think we got to go ahead and finish this, and you guys can argue about the politics of that later
It's
on.
not politics, it's
Again,
the rules.
just to be clear, the star beginning the contract of Harkins.
129.
You say site prep, Bill, but
What
what you mean is the whole thing. I mean, they're going to do everything except put the pool in the ground.
And the public.
and the pumping, no, and the pumps itself, right?
Okay. But the pump house, the bulkheads, the decks, the new tiki bar.
When I looked at the RFP for the pool, that's the exact same question I had, Dave. Exactly. I said, wait a minute, is this a turnkey thing, or who's doing the rest? And the rest, the concept that Bob is presenting, the rest is being done by Harkins for the reason you talked about before, continuity and whatever,
Well, there's a lot more arrest than there is.
There's a lot of rest. There's a lot more rest. You better believe
A little bit of
it. There sure is. There sure is. The same kind of things came through my mind, and that's what I'm so glad it was fresh in my mind, because I wasn't involved in any of the preliminary stuff, and until the other day I had no idea really what was going on. Okay, but you see how the pool is planned out there? So the pool installation, it goes for about a month right here. And then, in the meantime, Harkins is redoing that bulkhead. The bulkhead is going behind the yacht club and all the way back behind the pool, too. Same guy should be doing the bulkhead, right? And all the other stuff that's going on. They're still working what these guys are putting in the pool. And then they turn it back over, or these pool guys come back in and finish the pool by hooking everything up and everything. And then Harkins and the pool guy have it done by the 25th and ready for operation by the 25th of May. That's pretty ambitious. And then the pool's open. The yellow line shows the pool's open for the summer. Any questions about that line right there? Sharon?
I follow this very clearly. Thank you.
Okay.
This is very, very good.
Yeah, I can't even picture it unless I lay it out like that.
This makes a lot of sense. We're assuming that all the contracts are given and the dates are matched, so we have fair weather.
You got
Weather
it.
can back it up a week or two, one way or the other, and I get that. But this is with the ultimate, if everything goes the way it should go.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, now the next line is the yacht club, old yacht club. And it opens up, I just put down a start date because I don't know when Bob suggests he opens it up again, but it's open through the summer and it closes on Labor Day. Okay, in the meantime, on the new yacht club, the site prep would start as soon after the contract is signed on the 29th. I have the contract signed on the 29th because we've got to get moving here to get this thing done. Site prep, and then I just said, if they'll start construction of things, and that place is going to be built concurrently with the yacht club, with the old yacht club operating. See the yellow above that? They're working. They're building this thing. How they're going to build it? They'll have a plan. They already have a plan. All the stuff laid out. But it'll go on, and then when the old yacht club closes on Labor Day, they'll tear the old yacht club down. You can see there that line back there where the old yacht club is. They'll tear that down, and they'll complete the construction. My biggest question to these guys was, first of all, why are you building at the same place and everything? And how can you? I wouldn't build a house like that. I wouldn't build a house and just have a corner of it. But the way it's designed, that is sort of a separate area over there where that bar area is. And although I wouldn't want to build it that way, and they really don't either, I don't think, it's doable, it's feasible, it's in their plan, it's in their bid. And after talking to those guys for a while, I came to the conclusion that they can do it. Before I had grave doubts. Grave doubts.
And just for the board to know, just before I came to the meeting today, I saw that the proposed contract language has been forwarded to the contract review committee this afternoon for them to start their review of that. Harkins contract, not the pool contract. But they've got that in hand for them to review it before it comes to us.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Harkins, Harkins provided a AIA contract, which is, we all know from experience, very confusing, referring to this and that and the other thing. And Ted reworked that contract, put it in English. It's still too damn long, but put it in English. And Harkins has it. They reviewed it. And all it needs is a quick review. I've reviewed it. It looks good to me. And things were clarified on notice to proceeds and things like that, and who's getting profit at what and when. And I suggest you guys to read it in an hour. I suggest you do read it, and I think it's good.
And just for clarification, this is the second Harkins contract. There is an existing contract with Harkins to do the paperwork, preparatory design work, and all of that, which we signed months ago.
That's a preliminary design work.
Design work. So this is
Right.
the second
Permit.
contract for them, just so we're clear on all the contract dates and that kind of thing.
Bill, with respect to your Gantt, I'm sorry, am I interrupting?
No, go ahead.
With respect to your Gantt charts that are on the new yacht club site prep, the scope of that would include that new parking lot, that new parking facility, except
Yes.
for the finish coat.
Yes.
And the reason
I didn't get into that kind of detail, Dan,
Well-
but that's why the man from Harkins is here who knows all that stuff.
It would include that. I mean, the reason I'm asking that's obvious. If we're going to open a pool on Memorial Day, we're going to have some place for those people to park.
Yes, that parking lot in front of the pool will be completed as far as gravel. We will not put the final blacktop on until phase 3.
Phase 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
just
will be
to,
parkable. We will have stone. It will have parking bumpers, so it will be able to be used.
just to reinforce or to clarify in more detail, Dan, what you're talking about is you don't necessarily have a phase plan that the county approves.
I know.
But the county, because of this, and because of health, safety, traffic, grease traps, you name it, electrical, gas, all that kind of stuff, they asked and demanded, they said, unless you get a phase plan and explain just those kind of things, they're not going to approve it. So they prepared that and submitted it, And it's being under review right now, is it not? Yeah.
Right.
This entire plan put together, a lot of work and it looks great, but I think it was also done under the assumption that this board is going to approve an additional $623,000 over and above what the yacht club was when this whole was all put together, and I assume that's going to be part of the budget process.
Well, that one's for me. That's not. I asked Bill to get up, and I'll answer that in a moment for you. I asked Bill because he was new and was very new to the whole piece and very skeptical. We had talked several times, so I asked him to come in and review and see what I was missing, or if it was a bad plan. He was able to help me with it.
Ted and I, you all know Ted. We talk every now and then. We say, what are these guys doing? How is this going to happen? Time's moving on. I read in the paper I said, I just don't really believe all this. And after hearing the guys and laying it out and asking hard questions, when are you going to be ready? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? I now believe it's possible. But as Sharon said, there's a couple of key things. Number one, board action. Whether board action to get the contract signed and to approve the money, that's your business. But it's got to be done in a hurry, okay? Or otherwise it won't start. And secondly, weather. Now, I've never been held up more than a week building anything around here. So I'm not really worried about weather. But if weather could hold it up, which would screw this plan up. And the third thing is, if the contractors can't do what they say. And after meeting with them the other day, I came to believe that my confidence level went way up that they could. Okay? So unless there's no more questions.
One more, Bill, and just an easy one. The idea of us bidding out the pool construction contract and getting a price for it, and then passing it through to Harkins, as far as you're concerned, that's not an issue. I mean, I would want one contractor managing the whole site. I don't want more than one GC fooling around over there, because I think it's going to be hard enough to manage the way it is. But if I were Harkins, I would look at Ocean Pines and say, okay, I want a fee for managing this other contractor you're bringing.
You guys going to ask for a fee for managing their contract?
There'll be a minimal. We'll discuss that. We have not discussed that. You asked me if we'd be willing to accept the responsibility of the pool. I said yes. It's critical to get the completion done. We got to have control over the pool contractor. So there is a little bit involved with that, and that's something that we can discuss and make sure everyone is fine with it. It's going to be very minimal because we're there already.
It's important that, from the reasons why the GM explained there before, the same contractor for continuity, particularly that bulkhead back there, for example. I mean, two contractors working on all these things, flexibility where that gate's going to go exactly, where exactly a tiki bar may be, because you can move it now, and the same guys. So it's a good idea to have the same guy. The question is, were I the board, would I agree this sole source non-bid contract? And the answer is, Harkins did the other pool for us at a good price. We got a lot for that. Let's see their numbers and see if we can say, is this really fair? Are you willing to go with the sole? I don't know. It's too bad we didn't have a lot more time. Yeah.
I'm glad you ended with, too bad we didn't have a lot more time. I knew this was going to be a hurry up. And I'm looking at here's the contract from Harkins. It's dated a week ago. We had the engineering back 2 months ago. Pool's been broken for over 2 months.
These are mine, Bill. These aren't your questions.
Yeah, these are my questions.
No, I'm going to finish my statement, if I may. Because I agree with you. Harkins did a fabulous job over at the Swim and Racket Club. And they're going to be at top of anybody's list doing this kind of work. Our problem is we don't have a list.
Well,
This is a last minute, got to do it this way or the highway, and it doesn't meet the duty of care. And I hope the directors understand that.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Let me, the comment that the last board meeting we had, there was clearly a question put forward. There was no vote on it, but there was clearly a recognition on the part of the board members that we were not going to repair pool we have because we had been told we couldn't repair it, and that we clearly were interested in replacing it. Well, that certainly put a dollar sign in front of me that we were going to be spending money on a new pool. How much, I didn't know. And that's what the RFP is, to find out what that's going to be. The question to me comes down to, as Marty is, I think you're saying, is that the overall management of the site and the site prep work has not been bid out. And that's the part that won't be bid out if we move forward. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are all
And
those
it's
things?
also 4 times more than the pool.
I'm not arguing numbers here at all. I'm just making sure we're all on the same page. That every one of us sitting up here said we knew we wanted to rebuild the pool. So we knew there was going to be an expense there that was not in a budget at that point. We knew that, okay? So the dollars for the pool are being RFP'd out. They are what they are. That's at least my view of the world. I wanted to level set that that's not a surprise that we were going to have to pay for a new pool, that we had decided to do that. Okay, so now we get to the discussion of Harkin, non-Harkin timelines.
And some of the things, just to
Does
clarify.
anybody disagree with what I just said?
I'm not sure what you just said.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough.
Just to clarify, so we're not missing terms here. I'm bringing a solution. It's up to you guys to decide. Quite frankly, I think it's the right solution, or I wouldn't put it in front of you. I'm not being hasty in it. I'm not trying to waste time. I'm trying to bring the most appropriate solution to continue the project. We went through a significant bid process, and we awarded a contract of $4.3 million. And slightly less than it's 3.8 for Harkins, but 4.3 for the entire project. With these guys as our primary partner, $600,000 for the pool. When I went back and looked at 11 and 12, and I looked at what we bid for the deck work and the other, did not seem unreasonable to me, and it was a rational thing to bring to you today. So it is squarely in your court. The things that I will tell you, we can certainly slow the process down. That's a board decision. We can. I'm not sure why it's funny. I think these are
But
facts.
because
You're
you've sat on this and it's gotten to the
Mr.
point
Clark.
now where we're at a time it's our fault. If
Mr.
we
Clark,
don't jump out
again,
of the fire.
unprofessional rude behavior doesn't help me here.
Okay.
I'm
That's
trying
why
to
I bring up
present
This is
to-
unprofessional.
Once again, I'm trying to provide to the board the most accurate information with all the parts and pieces. I believe moving forward with Harkins is in the best interest of the association. We've already chosen them as our contractor for the primary project. The damage to Hurricane Sandy was unavoidable. Going back to partner with them makes sense. It's really going to be up to you guys. Yes, sir.
Is the $600,000 still sitting in the maximum?
Well,
Wasn't approved.
it,
Okay, the reason I asked that is, see, I picture in my mind all this beautiful work that's already been approved, that's gonna be done over there with a deck around it and a big ugly hole in the ground with no pool in it. And that to me doesn't make any sense. So moving forward
yes, sir.
with what we have to do, I think it's scary, but we just have to consider it.
I believe we'll have to, I believe we'll have to consider it too. And I'm just as frustrated as Marty. I mean, this isn't the first time over the last 2.5 years that, I mean, we've been confronted by what's under the court and why don't you do it. I mean, you've seen how much information that we've been presented with. Have we had any time to consider really what the alternatives to this might be? I mean, are you saying that this is the only alternative? Well, the only one presented. And I think, anybody that, just based upon what they saw today, that could make a decision and say, yeah, let's go with that, would be irresponsible. I would feel irresponsible. I certainly would not do it. Yeah, I would, certainly consider it. Ray's right. But, as far as today goes, we'll have to set up another time to figure out, to sit down and discuss it and make sure that we have all the questions that we want answered.
What is the
Yeah,
time?
and we're right. And by the way, in terms of the budget, Ray, of course, it's not in the budget. And this is basically an out-of-budget request. Now, I have to admit that it does meet my out-of-budget requirement as an emergency. I would call it that, really, because I think the pool's that important. But on the other hand, when you couple it to out-of-budget requests for $900,000 for greens, out-of-budget requests for $540,000 for drainage, all in the same year, by the way. You know what? I think, there's a certain point when you say, hey, this has got to be enough. And I'll tell you what, I'm not running next year anyway, so I can say it. But if the people can't go to the art club pool next year, and we do things rationally, I think that'd be okay too.
This is the question I've got. The RFP itself, if we were to do one for a different company to come in and do this prep work, that delay, that period of time is in, what's the estimate of that? 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
60 to 90 days.
60 to 90 days. So if we took this Gantt chart and went out 60 to 90 days, we're taking the pool opening from the end of May to why bother opening it? Because it's going to be August.
If it's 90 days.
Which, by the way, is a rational question.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out, if that's what we're talking about, we're really talking about whether or not having the pool rebuilt and open for next summer justifies picking Harkin without doing an RFP competitive bid. And I will add one other thing, and then I'll open it up. There is also a thing where you can do an RFP where, and I've done hundreds of these things for Verizon when I worked there. There is such a thing as an RFP that ends up being an RFP in name only. When a contractor's already in position and everything is already organized under them, and it's, I don't know how somebody would compete with Harkin in the first place, but they could. So that just, if that's a fair statement, I think we end up in the middle of August when the pool opens. But, okay, Marty.
I think that's worst case scenario. First off,
Okay.
there has to be an RFP. We have a scope in our hand. How long does it take to have a meeting, get the bids? 6 weeks is a max. We're doing the pool bid in 6 weeks, are we not?
The pool bid's already out, and we're waiting.
Yeah.
for it.
How long was the total process?
Okay.
6 weeks. Well, you shrug your shoulders. You did it. How long was it?
You're making statements and then questioning in the middle. I'm listening.
How long did it take from the trigger pull?
You're looking at this, but if you say 6 weeks, I accept that.
So
Mr. Cherry, would you direct the general
So it's-
manager
so
to give a
it's-
straight
so it's
answer?
6 months.
I gave you my
6 weeks, all right.
6 weeks.
So we're talking about,
Question.
that still puts us into the middle of July.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have the contractor in the back. Would it be appropriate? I think, Don, did you have a question for the board?
I have a comment to make. One thing you got to consider is all the approvals we got from the county for the yacht club, the new contractor for the pool would have to go through all those submittals himself. So you're going to lose 30 to 60 days from the county for submittal approvals. It takes a new NOI permit. Whereas we already have an NOI permit, we can change the acreage of that NOI permit. We do not have to resubmit to the state. Once you submit that to the state, it's a 30-day approval process. So there are
So we're
things you need
talking
to
about,
consider with permitting that are greatly going to extend that period of time.
Marty. You have your hand up, Marty?
No. I mean, I can say that I'm not going to bid for or vote for a no-bid contract at the last minute. I said I wasn't going to do it at the last meeting 2 months ago. But I'm still not going to do it.
Dan?
Bill, stop me if I mistake, please. If I mistake, stop me and correct me.
Okay?
I don't think that we really want to look at this project and say we're going to be whoever that guy back in the Bible was who was going to cut the baby in half and hope that the two halves when I first heard about the idea of a no bid, give it to Harkins, let's go kind of situation, my reaction, Marty, was the same as yours. Wait a minute. How do we know that we're getting a good price? How do we know that we're getting treated fairly? How do we know that we're going to be handled the way it should be handled? Then I started thinking about the on-the-ground reality of what we're doing over there. You have one pier set, one bulkhead set, one dock set, one terrace level, all as part of a single unit. And it seems to me to be asking for trouble to go out and find a different contractor to do a third of it or a half of it. It's just scary. I'm comfortable now, and particularly after Mr. Rakow and Mr. Maroney have had a chance to look over this situation, that this is the right move. The question that I have to ask myself is, are the dollars that they've quoted us within reason? And I don't know the basis for the $600,000 estimate to replace the pool and the pool pump house.
That doesn't replace.
So wait a minute, 2 years ago. No, it was for the pool, not the pool, I'm sorry, for the pump house and the pool deck.
This is an $800,000 job, right?
Well, when you're finished with the pool, yes. Okay, $200,000 of that belongs to a hurricane. $600,000 of that has already been talked about, discussed, looked at, put into a budget, taken out of a budget, and now we're looking at putting it back in the budget. And it's funny that their number is $623,760. I'm not real happy with that big a number, but I don't think we're going to get it a whole lot smaller. And I am comfortable enough with that number to say that the idea of looking at this as one project and managing it as one project and using one person to do it as a unified project makes sense.
Dan, I don't believe we'll get a better. The price isn't what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about is we have a duty of care. The duty of care is clear. We need 3 bids. This is not an emergency by any definition of the word.
I believe we also have a duty to care to all of the people that utilize the yacht club pool during the summer, since it is one of the most utilized in the summer. And I think those people would be very upset if they didn't have a pool this summer to go to and enjoy.
You know, some of the people use the pool, and others, in fact, just pay for it. The point that keeps recurring is Bob brought it up. You know, this is a wall, and Dan repeated it. And once you make that assumption, it all starts to make sense that this is one big, big complex, unified complex, and separating out one part of it from the other parts wouldn't make sense. And it's sort of the going in assumption that you say, yeah. But let's not forget, and anybody can correct me if they're wrong, but if Hurricane Sandy didn't happen and the pool didn't collapse, we would have the same decks, we'd have the same tiki bar, we wouldn't be going out for bid for a new pool. We would just be sitting here pretty happy and saying, okay, we're going to have a yacht club over here and a pool over here, and an old yacht club too, but we're going to get rid of that, and then it'll be exactly like it looks. So the one big complex, I'm sorry, that one just sails over my head. That doesn't resonate and make any sense to me. Perhaps, and I don't doubt that perhaps Harkins could do a better job being already on the site and having equipment there, and being familiar, and as they point out, getting the other. But I'll tell you why, in all of my experience, there's a lot of years working with government contracting, sole source, other kinds, You'll never get a better rationale for anything than you will from the people who are shoving it up, trying to push it in a sole source contract. And sometimes it's overwhelming, and this is actually goes way up there with the best in terms of rationale. But on the other hand, the underlying thing, I guess I should say, is that there's a good reason for 3 bids, even when it doesn't seem to make sense in a particular instance. And sticking with that reason is a good one. I mean, it's worthwhile to the organization in the long run. My questions with this whole plan, take the whole concept. We're going to really keep the yacht club open during the summer. They lost money this past summer, and we're going to keep it open. Well, we'll have someplace to go. We'll keep the pool open for one season rather than risk it going down because of the disaster. We'll take. At any rate, I have a hard time with this, but I'm not saying one way or another whether I agree with it or I don't agree with it, but I certainly do need time to sit down and read everything that's been done, ask questions, and then make some kind of a rational decision.
Can I say something, sir?
No, sorry.
I want to clarify some dates here, just so I know. The assumption that, Bill, a reasonable assumption would be if we went to an RFP, it would take at least, I'm going to shorten it, 4 weeks to get bids back. And if we picked another contractor other than Harkin, we would then have a 60-day paperwork delay. And I don't mean to be delayed in a negative way, but we would have to have 60 days worth of work with the county to get the paperwork done in order to be able to start the pool at all. So we're talking, but we're talking about, in essence, 3 months worth of delay if someone else won the RFP for doing the work. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say it's a fair assumption, but you know, it's too bad we didn't know when we started bidding out the yacht club in the first place, it would include the pool in it also. You know, we didn't know that.
Well, we didn't know Sandy.
Why would any contractor bid now against Harkin?
We'll never know until we find
You never know until you find out. But the thing is that, and again, these same questions I had. You just learned about this stuff today. I want my purpose of being here, and is it doable? And I think it is. And that's I can from what I've seen, it's doable. The politics of the whole thing is, you know, that's what you're talking about. If you want to close the aquatics program down for summer, and you're going to lose a lot of money there, because Director O'Hare may not be a swimmer this year. She's always at the pool. Why should she join? You know, how many people are you going to lose if you don't have the pool open? How many? You know, subtract them out. So,
okay, thank you.
Right?
Okay, I just wanted to. You know, I could ask.
You can't open. So if you go to an RFP, the bottom line is your pool will not be open for the summer. Okay, which if you can accept that, fine. But then at the same time, is any RFP going to be realistic? And if you accept a better RFP, all you're doing is getting bids to validate his bid. That's all you're doing, right?
Definition of bidding.
Is it 800,000? And closing the pool is certainly an alternative that we ought to look at. You say we'll lose all that money, bid? So we're losing money with the pools open.
We'll lose a lot more.
I don't know that we'll lose a lot more.
Okay. We've got a lot of stuff presented here. We're actually going to be in the same room together tomorrow and the next day.
Budget.
What's the sense of the group here? Because I think we've pretty much put the numbers out there and the issues. It's pretty obvious what we're faced with.
I would like to suggest that we give everybody a chance to sleep on this, think about it, and talk about it tomorrow at our meeting. And there is a time frame we do have to respond to. One way or the other, we either have to get more bids, or we say we're going to go ahead before we go.
I have no problem with tabling this to be because this is a big budgetary issue.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it.
Part of what we're going to be talking about.
And those
agree.
meetings are open meetings also.
Yes,
so
I agree.
And those are open sessions too. So Without objection, I will table this topic till tomorrow and give people a chance to sit.
Is there an agenda for tomorrow's meeting?
There's one I sent over for.
Yeah, there's a, the president suggested agenda for both.
Has it been distributed?
Email, yep.
No?
Or did it just come to me?
I just sent it to you.
Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, I apologize.
No, you were.
I thought you sent it to everybody. So.
No, that's okay. It's the normal tab by tab approach with, well, I'll just announce it. The agenda for tomorrow is, we were going to start with Dennis Hudson making a presentation from the Budget and Finance Committee, document they sent over to ask questions about
9
that.
a.m. at the Country Club?
9 a.m. at the Country Club, followed by Bob Thompson answering just to go over the answers of the two sets of questions that were sent in, one by you, Marty, and one by me. And then we will start the tab-by-tab assessment, operations, capital, going through the books. That's the approach. Sorry about the agenda not going.
I think, what, at 11 o'clock is the meeting on the reserve?
On the reserves.
We're going to have Art Carmine?
Yes.
Okay.
And are we going to end this on 12 o'clock on Friday?
I'm going to try to end it on 12 o'clock each day.
Are we going to be?
I mean,
good luck with that.
We'll see how everybody feels.
Yeah, Friday they'll be setting up for
For the
Friday.
Friday thing,
Yeah, I don't want anybody to find out about the Friday thing. It's getting too crowded.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is status of charter amendment. Dave Stevens.
Oh,
You're next.
that popped up quick. Okay, I'll do this, pretty much off the top of my head. We have, as I sent the board a memo a couple weeks ago, an email, saying how we're going to proceed with the charter. Basically, we're going to meet the current charter requirements for having an announcement of the meeting, the charter amendment, sent to each individual in the Pines. We're going to do that without spending money to send out separate envelopes. We're going to make the announcement in the winter issue of the winter issue of the Pines quarterly report. So you can look for that. However, what the announcement will say, so you don't have to look for it, is that the proposed charter, the new one, is on the webpage right now. Of course, the existing charter is on there. There's also a summary sheet, which there will be at some time in the future. I should also say that the new charter is undergoing legal review. At some point in the future, there will be an announcement of a meeting. It may be simply a special meeting attached to one of our board meetings or whatever. It's not a town hall meeting or anything, but it will be for a board discussion of the new charter and hopefully a motion to accept it. In the meantime, people who read the charter online and have questions or additions or whatever should submit them. And this is something I'm just going to hit you new with. My proposal is that they send their comments to directors, as we do. But that they, and then, by the way, Teresa, this would maybe be in addition to the web announcement, that they include the subject charter. And such that and now I would further propose that any of those that come in, they send to Jim Trummel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that Jim be the person who will take all of the comments and collate them and, make sense out of it in the contract. I'd also suggest that you request that Joe Moore do that too, so we have one central place of
That makes sense.
I think that's it. It's okay.
All right.
Public comment.
Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. In all the talk about the extra pool work, did I get it correct that we're talking about, give or take, a couple $100,000 for the new pool we're going to bid separately, and then the related ancillary work around the pool with the pump house, the bass, that's about $600 and some thousand, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And apparently we have a bid from Harkins that's told us how much that $600,000, that's what they want. Have you asked Mr. Rako or any of our construction people, in-house people, friends, relatives, associates, to take a look at that bid and to compare and come up with an estimate as to whether it's reasonable or not within, say, 10-15%?
Actually, Bill Rako, I think, just got through saying that's exactly where he is. He does see it as being a reasonable number.
So they've looked at it and think it's a reasonable number. Okay. Then I don't know what all this is about. I agree that Harkins ought to do the whole job, from my perspective as an association member. However, having said that, I'm not so concerned about the time issue here. I'm deeply disappointed that this board hasn't taken a closer look and given more discussion. I don't remember any truly extensive discussion as to whether the approach of leaving that yacht club open all next summer while construction is going on is the right approach to take. Here's what I would say we ought to do. Given the fact we want one contractor, Harkins is going to do it all, build the yacht club, build the pool. Here's what I think we ought to do. And I'd ask the board members to each consider this and to talk about it. Tear that yacht club down now. Shut the pool down for all next summer. In other words, that whole area over here, except for Marina, shut it down. Sure, you can build the yacht club and leave off a corner of it where there's a bar and so on. And that's exactly what we're talking about doing in 2 phases, leaving a corner off.
Yes.
But think about it. We built that whole yacht club. It's sitting there, ready to open, with this corner left off. And at that point, they have to bring back every single trade. We got to put in a foundation. We got to put up the walls. We got to do the lights. We got to do the roof. We got to do the electric. We got to do the bar. That's all after the whole building's done. In my mind, that makes no sense. Now, I've been told that the reason to keep the yacht club open is because we don't want to lose the profit we're going to make over here next year. Now, if that's not one of the most absurd reasons I've ever heard, I don't know what is. I mean, that's laughable. It's beyond laughable. Not only that, picture that place as a construction site. And if we can't attract people to that old yacht club because, as Ms. Morris said, it's a dump now, and who would want to have anything over there? How are we going to attract people to a dump in the middle of a construction project? Now, you can't have it both ways. It's either a dump or not a dump. Now, if we can't attract people to the dump while things are pretty clean around there, how are we going to attract people to the same dump while we got trucks, all kinds of stuff going on over there? It makes no sense to me. I think the board really needs to give some thought to this, and I understand where Bob's coming from, but the whole, from 20,000 feet, this project doesn't look right. When it's all done, I'm sure it'll be good. But let's do it the right way.
Joe, if I may, I think you forgot something. You forgot that if we did that, what you proposed, we would be able to discuss the issue in this budget and basically budget for it properly in next year's budget.
Sure, you have plenty of time to decide whatever you want to do with the pool and associated structures as well. But at any rate, I'm looking at this from a big picture item, and I think the board hasn't done that. Got an item on the agenda today. I'm back to my old pet peeve. For closed session for discussion of contract. Now, since the agenda doesn't say what contract, one is only left to speculate. Now, I don't even know if the board, do the board members know what the contract negotiation? Ray's shaking his head no. Okay, Ray, you're going to vote to go into closed session as required by Maryland law. And it has to be a topic that is valid for closed session. But you don't even know what it is. A long time ago, 5-6 years ago, Bill Zawacki was president. This board, the board then, has not been rescinded, said that we will tell the association members what the topic, the general topic of the closed session is, if it doesn't harm OPA. Now, if you're going to talk about a contract for the yacht club, why not just say it? Who cares? But I said to myself, what else might they be doing that they don't want anybody to know about? Maybe they want to sell the property up there next to the library or the post office. Probably is worth less than a referendum would trigger. But if that were one of the things you're going to discuss, if it was the contract you were going to discuss, I would say to you, don't do that in closed session. Don't do it. Because in general, OPA is in perpetuity. In perpetuity. We have no more idea what we may need that land for in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. We don't know. But if we sold it, say we get $1 million, we get $1.5 million, gone like that, and our land is gone, and what we might be able to do with it. Land is too valuable to get rid of for OPA. I would sooner see us buy land than sell land. And finally, please, Bob, get somebody from inspection department, CPI, working on weekends. There's a lot of sign violations that go on here on weekends. And we don't have anybody working. And that's when most of them come. I went up and took some photographs the other day for Pop something or other, I don't know what it is. Got little lights on them and everything else stuck down the parkway. 7 to 8 signs down the parkway from the north gate directing people to a business and a home where the individual is apparently selling stuff.
That's on the agenda.
And a sign in the front of the house that says no more than 5 cars at a time. But anyway,
Okay, Jim.
please look at having somebody pull those things out on weekends. I'd rather a guy work a Saturday and Sunday than a Monday or Tuesday. Thank you.
Kevin?
Dennis Hudson, 26 Lakes Lane. Tomorrow I have to make a presentation to the board about a budget, and I have a dilemma now. Bob, Mr. Thompson, if we delay your program by 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, what does that do to the aquatics and the yacht club budgets you just presented?
We're going to have to redo the budget. We've got aquatics, our memberships, so we're going to have an impact on membership. And then the yacht club, obviously, if we close, I'm going to have both sides of that one.
It's fortunate that we have enough time to redo the budget because we're starting tomorrow.
All right, because we and the Budget and Finance Committee do not want to bias an opinion without having all the information. It's going to be a long process as it is. You're not going to like some of the things we're going to say. But in fairness and accuracy, if you're going to delay this project, I need to know what the impact is. And we need to calculate that before the decision is made because the difference may not be enough to go out to bid.
You're on the agenda, sir.
Oh, I can't say anything.
Oh, yeah, sure you can. It's not on your...
I listened to everything that was discussed on pools except one question. Pool members. I do not mind when we have to leave the sports court to go to another pool when they're fixing it. I do not. We have to go from the sports court, the yacht club, to the 18th. Each one of the pools as they're working on them. If you're a pool member, they tell you, they give you enough time to make arrangements, to know where you have to go, when you have to go. And it works out fine. There's no conflict. And I think what's missed here is the pool members themselves. What they have to say about this. Because these are the people that are enjoying the pool. And it's better to be safe than sorry. Thank you.
Okay, Bull of Wall Street, 12, Lord Guy. Before I start talking, I want to say something, Tom, we talked before. The way I talk over here, you know, I'm not 100% in my English language. I like all you people, personally. There's no hard feeling to any of you people. What I come here, that is the politics you people do. Okay? Let me admit. And I want to say that since a long time I'm hard. A couple of months ago, I was in a restaurant. I was approached by a guy who got a newspaper. He called me a brute. He said I was very unpolite to you people. I never was. That's the way I talk. When I talk here, I talk off my heart. When I tried to give that man an answer, he walked away. I call him a coward. That's what you said, coward. If I say it right. If I want to say that to you people, when I speak, it's not personal. It is the politics you people do. I'm very disappointed in our management, in our manager. I told you that once before. This person takes no responsibility if something goes wrong. He blames it always on different people. Now let me go, I got here list. This man proposed the coffee house, the Yard Coffee. It was a disaster. When it went wrong, he fired one of his people. He blamed it on the people. We had the golf course. He spent $1 million on the golf course, and he brainwashed you people. He's a salesman. He's not a manager. He told you he was going to sell all these things for lifetime membership. He was going to get $750,000, I think. He didn't even got $200,000. But you spent the money. And we lost $500,000 on the golf course. Is he going to blame now Casper for it? This man was hired by Mr. Rocco. Mr. Rocco is a military man, very nice military man. Our manager was a military man. He was only hired by Mr. Rocco while he had a background in the military. If the manager had not a military background, he never would have hired him. Ocean City and Pocomo took 6 months to get a general manager. We took 2 months, not even 2 months. Our manager made a statement here a couple months ago about what he's doing in Ocean 5. He said the young generation, the next generation is looking to Ocean 5, to a place. We got a yacht club, a golf course, everything. The young people come out school or college, they don't even can find a job. I gotta go. Our manager is a salesman. I tell him the best thing our manager can do, quit the job here and go to Salzburg and be a salesman for the car. What he telling you people, you believe it. That is completely wrong. He's a salesman. You cannot steal a man's job. I told you that once before. You cannot come as an investor and run Ocean Pond. Okay? The same thing. We was here the last 2 months ago. There was a big talk over here about a golf club next door. For what I understand, there would be no town meeting, but there was a town meeting. We got the commissioner here. I don't know if he's gone. Mr. Thompson was telling everybody if we buy that, we would have no problem with the flood. The county is going to help us. People, you all have to wake up. Yeah, okay, Tom.
I understand where you're going with that one, but you got to put a timeline on it.
Well,
when that was originally being looked at, Dutch, we didn't have the county's solution.
Well, anyway, Tom.
I think Jimmy Bunning deserves a lot of credit for finding a solution that's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the process.
Well, anyway, I tell you, to all you people, all manager walk up and down with a bottle of water. He don't look you people in the face. He brainwashes you people. He's a salesman. He's not a general manager. Please. I read it this week in Mr. Stroud's paper about the advisor committee. about the yacht club. We're spending $4.5 million. You think so? All the people come and eat in the yacht club, but we're going to make that money? This don't make any sense. If we have built a $2 million yacht club, I will be happy. I can speak here. I'll speak from my heart. All right. I was a construction worker, a welder. I work on satellites. Took me years to be perfect mechanic. You cannot put a man here in a year and he knows everything. The yacht club is a disaster. The golf course is a disaster. Now we have to pay $43 more on dues. He's wasting all money. 3 years from today, Tom, all you people, the people come up to you and say, Tom, what you did 3 years ago with the manager, we're going to eat the whole. Another thing, I told you that once before, there was in the paper, 60% from the people who live in Ocean Pine are under 65 years. You cannot go to the yacht club and spend $50, $60, $70 for a dinner. This is the whole problem. If we had 60 people, or 60% from the people in Ocean Pine living what was retirement people, we would have no problems with the yacht club. We are the people who go out and eat, but not the people who work. You know, it's unfortunate, Tom. Let me see. Remember what I say. I want to say not one thing. And Mr. Thompson cannot deny that. And that's why I'm mad. Mr. Thompson told me personally, I am going to control the board. I'm not going to be like Olson. And that's what he's doing. He walks up and down with a bottle of water in his hand. And he don't fish you. Oh. It shows you everything he had done was not the progress. We lost money. Tom, thank you.
I think you're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I add one more quick thing? Very quick.
I have one quick
I'm sorry,
question.
yeah.
One quick question.
I'm sorry.
I disagree with what everything
Name
you
and
said.
address.
Doris Lloyd, 65 Whitney. First of all, I disagree with him. But anyway, one question. Doesn't the money for the pool come out of our replacement budget?
Well, it depends on how we decide to finance it, but in essence, yes. I mean, there's various ways that we have to decide how we're going to pay for the pool.
Yeah.
And how
We
much
could do
is
a loan, we could do, there's various ways of doing it.
and how much is in the replacement budget?
Millions.
There's a
In the
lot.
full budget, there are millions. But
Not the pool budget, the replacement budget.
And the
Which
replacement.
is for things like a hurricane, right? Okay.
No,
No.
not necessarily.
Well, right, I agree.
Okay, Joe. We gotta.
Well, Mr. Dutch,
Yeah, that's okay.
this thing really isn't working. Anyway, Mr. Dutch, in his attempt to make Mr. Thompson look bad, has actually insulted everybody up there on the board of directors.
Right.
Because he said that Mr. Thompson walking up and down with a bottle of water can fool all you people. So I don't know how you got elected if you can be fooled by a guy walking around with a bottle of water, but that seems to be the case.
I second.
Look, the reality is, people, and Dutch and I talked about, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
I'm just waiting my turn.
Off at the end.
My name is Chuck Choate. I live at 3 Drawbridge. I'd just like to point out a couple things that I'd like you to consider. With regards to the pool, I think that in looking at the pricing and any bids that you receive, that you should consider the fact that the price under the Harkins proposal is for one product, and that any bids that you get or price that you get that separates the two would be for a different product, in the sense that they cannot be done with the same amount of coordination and at the same sequence, in the same sequence of events. So that there's a lot of consideration that goes beyond just a bottom line We got separate bids that were, say, $500,000, and the Harkins bid is $600,000. Or the total package for one is, $800,000, the other package is $700,000. And consider whether the product that you received under the Harkins proposal would be worth the extra money, should it be. Plus the fact that you have no guarantee that any of the bids, were you to receive them, would be less than the combined bid. But you would have already lost the time by going out and securing them. And that's just something I would ask you to enter into your considerations when you look at these, at the proposal or which direction you're going to take. The second proposal, I've heard a lot of discussion back and forth about Mr. Thompson this, Mr. Thompson that, Mr. Thompson this, Mr. Thompson that. And whether we should do this or do that or accept his recommendation or do it some other way. And it has always seemed to me that the best way to get the best out of a person is to make sure that they've got skin in the game. And if Mr. Thompson wants to make a proposal that he can keep the yacht club open next year and make a profit on it, if I were sitting in your place, I would ask him, and I would say to him, okay, if you want to do that, I'll go along with it. But if it doesn't, then you're out of here. Because you will have proved that your judgment and your managerial style and your capabilities and abilities are insufficient for our purposes, and we can't depend on you to give us good proposals. So, something that large, something that significant, get some skin in the game. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. No. Bruce McIntyre, Lot 168, Section 4. Been here in this community for 42 years. Nothing much changes when I watch you guys. I just got to tell you the truth. I think my eyes got open to the dilemma you guys are facing after reading Mr. Strauss's Pines Progress this past week and hearing that the manual will be addressing budgetary considerations with tomorrow. Mr. Hudson, who spoke briefly here this afternoon, is quoted in that article saying that our yacht club has got to generate $6 million worth of business in order to break even. That is a frightening prospect because I don't think we've ever grossed that much business, even in its prime. Another thing states that we're facing a $43 increase in our assessment, which is fine, I guess, all things considered, but I don't know whether we're going to pay $623,000 plus a fee to Harkin if you go one way, but I noticed that if you had 8,450 lots generating $43 additional, you only come up with $363,350, which doesn't carry the load that you're talking about. Just an observation.
Anybody else? Okay. Marty? How much?
I move that the Board of Directors instruct our General Manager in compliance with our Declaration of Restrictions, the old ones and the new ones, Articles of Reinstatement, and Resolution F4, to publish the names of association members who have failed to pay charges made by the association in excess of $5,000, and immediately initiate legal action against those members for such unpaid charges, interest, costs, and reasonable attorney fees in any court of competent jurisdiction for the debt owed by the delinquent member or members to the association.
I second it. Okay, Ray, second. All right, discussion. Or you want to go through your motion?
Everybody's got it. I mean, what we're doing, filing liens and whistling past the graveyard ain't cutting it. We have the absolute right to file a lawsuit. If you don't pay your dentist, or you don't pay your doctor, or you don't pay your contractor, see you in Worcester County courtroom 120 days later on Tuesday. Every doctor, every lawyer, they all have somebody on staff that just does this stuff. I mean, it's not an expense. Even if you have to have an attorney sign off on it, all of that just piles onto the bill. It's no cost to us. We're charged by our documents at the Declaration of Restrictions, the Articles of Restatement, to do this. I don't know why we're not doing it.
Terry?
Well, I've been managing physician practices for 30 years, and I've never taken anybody to court for their bill. But that's beside the point. What is the purpose for publishing the names?
We're charged to do it.
No, we can make a choice whether we publish them or not.
Let me read it to you. Number 7 of the Declaration, Articles of Restatement. I'm going to read it. To levy an annual charge upon the members of the association, semicolon, to publish the names of members who shall fail to pay charges made by the association, semicolon, to sue to collect any such charges. I can go on. I didn't see a shall, maybe, or why not. Our decision, flip a coin.
Dan? Sure. I partly agree with this motion. I already talked to Maury about it. About a year ago, at least, maybe 2 years, I brought it to the board's attention that we were not doing everything I thought that we could do to collect our back assessments, and namely taking people in small claims court and doing it. This idea was brought to me by a member who is a lawyer and who does this on a regular basis as part of her job. I think just about a year ago we sat in a meeting, and I think Bob said that we were going to look into doing this. Okay, I don't know, Bob. Have we ever done it, or have we since then ever taken anybody to small claims court and sued? Well, we looked into it.
We did look into it. We spoke with Mr. Chris Woodley and Mr. Joe Moore and spoke to them extensively about it. The recommendation was the course of action we were following was the most appropriate given the cost associated with it. I don't have the notes here.
Well, of course, I wasn't in those meetings with you, but Joe Moore was sitting about 3 seats down from you when he leaned over when I was speaking and said, yes, you can do that.
You can.
You can do it.
Sure.
Okay. The one part of this motion that I disagree with, although I can accept it as written, but I think it's not complete, is that I don't think you have to go after people who owe all that money. I think you can go after people who lost $10. I mean that's an exaggeration, of course. You all accept that. But better, after having, there's a certain sequence of steps that happen before you get to that point that you have to do no matter what. But on the other hand, at very much shorter time, you can take them to small claims court. That does not preclude doing it or following the path we have now, which is to put a. I'm sorry, am I interrupting? Excuse me. Good. That does not preclude going through the foreclosure process, putting a lien on properties, whatever. I mean, they both can be done, actually. With the rationale for going after people in small claims court is that we're bringing it to a head faster. It's moving more quickly. And that really is the key thing. That's the reason I wouldn't wait until they owe us $5,000 or whatever. You don't have to. Why would you collect more money that way? The basic answer, as it was explained to me by the person who is actually doing it, is that people don't want to go to court. and that they will respond faster in general to the notion that they're being sued. And if they are brought into court, they'll respond faster. You can do more. I mean, foreclosing on a house is fairly draconian, but there are a lot of other options to collect assets that are owed you from people's assets. The cost of doing this, fundamentally, a lawyer needs to sign a paper, but a lawyer doesn't have to go down the smallest time to go to court. This is something that was brought up, said the same words in front of Joe Moore. I had no disagreement there, and yet, do we owe less or more? Are we owed less or more money now?
The issue the two issues for me. One, 2 years ago, I was adamantly against listing the names of anybody who owes us money. I'm no longer adamantly against that at all. I think the idea of putting the names out there for those who owe us more than $5,000. Now, if someone has put together a payment plan where they're making payments and all that, I think there ought to be an exception for that. But I have no problem with listing names of people who owe us $5,000. And that $5,000, by the way, is not just dues. It's also interest and penalties and things that get added on. And that's part of the reason the number gets as big as it is. The idea of going after someone simply because they add over $5,000. I don't know what the impact of going to small claims court would be, except that I do know via other groups that I'm involved with that you can go to small claims court and win, and if they don't pay it, the only thing you're left with able to do is put a lien on their house.
No.
Well, that's the answer. I'm just giving you the answer that I got.
That's not a true answer.
You can attach your paycheck.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not here to debate. I'm just telling you what I was told from the small claims court. I can't say whether that's the issue for me is if you go after someone whose house is underwater, who is virtually bankrupt, whether you win or not, if they don't have the money to pay it, you have expended the money for the legal fees, and you're not going to get it back because you've spent the money for it. And if they don't have the money in the checkbook per se to write the check, then although you're right, Marty, you do add that fee to the lawsuit. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, if the person, look, let me just get down to the basics here. If somebody's playing the game to just not pay our dues when they ought to be and they're perfectly capable of paying it, then absolutely we've got to find a way to push that out into the sunlight, in my opinion. But going after somebody based on this motion, meaning if you owe us more than $5, we're going to go spend the money, there ought to be at least an assessment step in here somewhere, that, in my mind, that says, is there any real chance of us ever getting the money? Because from what we are allowed to know about the person. I mean, that's where I'm having a bit of a disconnect.
I think that you're starting to discriminate to a point where you're tripping over the marbles and ignoring the basketballs. I'll bet you any amount of money you want that the largest majority of these people are sitting at home tonight watching cable television and tinkering on the internet, which, I don't know about your MediaCom bill, but mine's, you can easily retire this debt if you shut your TV off.
Here's my...
Let me finish if I may. You've also got, you've got 3 people that owe us more than $10,000. You know what happens when somebody owes you $10,000 and they're a surfboard? They file bankruptcy and you're out. If you've got a lawsuit on the books, that has more weight than a lien.
May I say also, just the business of Terry, just in response to Terry, the publishing names. We went through this several years ago. Bill Rick over here, he'd be nodding his head. And we absolutely, as a board, agreed not to do that. Not to do that. And I voted against it. And I said, look, it's punitive without a purpose. I said, and I can't put that. On the other hand, it kind of becomes a moot point. I mean, suing isn't punitive, it's a legal action. Okay. And when you sue, guess what? That person's name becomes out in the public. when you go to foreclose, their name goes out in the public. So,
Dave, I'm sorry to interrupt. They're already public record. Here you go. Every single person I'm talking about is public record.
yeah, so that's kind of a red herring. It's not really an issue.
Then
Well-
why do you need publishing?
Well,
Because it might
Doesn't
just
work.
shake them up if their neighbor's looking at them going, hey, buddy, how come I can't?
Public knowledge doesn't.
Yeah, how many people are going to spend the money to go get those? Only an idiot like me.
Let me, sure, go ahead.
I just want to ask a clarifying question. I understand, I'm listening to both sides here. And I do know people who didn't pay their association fees just for spite. And they could have. So I understand what you're saying, Marty. And I also know people who haven't paid their association fees because they're losing their home, they've lost their job. So I know that there's two sides to this. My question is this: if we publish the names, are you giving them a time frame to pay up or work a payment plan out or something before you go the next step? So is it a 60-day? What do you envision?
I would leave that up to, I mean, this is a simple plan. I mean, if we think that by a 30-day letter that says we're publishing your name and we're suing you, not we're going to send you another letter, we're going to sue you. You got 30 days to make arrangements or to pay up, or we're going to sue you.
Well, this is part of the detail, Marty, that I think goes into
Agreed.
behind this.
But we got to do something. We got to start moving forward.
You know, I've already moved on to the side of saying, okay, I'm all for putting names out there, but
It's 23% worse in 1 year.
But at some point, what does immediately mean? What does initiate legal action? What legal action?
Sue them, just what the book says.
Immediately.
What did I say, 120 days? That ain't immediate in my book.
Well,
If you owe me
I'm just-
$5,000 in 90 days, I'll
I'm just going by what's here. This says immediate. That means if the definition of immediate gives them a window to respond, you know, what are we really talking about asking people to do? Dan, go ahead.
When I read Mr. Clark's motion, I agreed with it. And the reason I agree with it is very simple. He is taking very aggressive action against the worst offenders on our collection list by this motion. And it's very clear and very simple motion as far as I'm concerned. It's no fooling around, you're public property, and we're going to see. Done. He's quite right when he says that our collections, until next month when our general manager comes back to us with a report on our current collections record, as far as I know, are worse this year than they were last year. And they have been trending down, and we have not been getting more and more aggressive, nor have we been getting more and more visible about our efforts to collect. So, this is a good one. Let's go send a signal to people that it's no longer a joke not to pay your dues and Ocean Pines.
I can agree with that statement, but I think we need to give them a chance to respond. That's my clarification question. If your name is going to be published, do they have a 30-day period to respond, to make a payment plan or pay up before they go to the lawsuit? I mean, we can't do one simultaneous with the other.
Well,
But
we've
there's
been
nobody-
doing it for years. These people have all been notified, you owe this, you owe this, you owe this. Is not something new, that they're going to get a letter that they didn't know about.
But you're changing the rules a little bit.
Well, that's all right. It's
We're
time to change the
We're
rules.
following the rules. We're not changing the rules.
Okay.
We're following the
But
rules.
you're adding something to it, so Sharon's right. You need to, at least, if you're gonna go to that extent, you need to at least give them.
I'm not arguing. I'm sure they're there. I'm not arguing about that. I think it's a good, valid point. We are entitled to money, but I do think we need to give the homeowner an opportunity to make it right. So give them a 30-day period or a 60-day period or whatever period everybody agrees to. I don't care, but we do have to give them a period to make it right.
Let me say this, if I may. We're not changing the rules, not at all.
No, I didn't mean changing.
We have a perfect right, I mean, anybody does, to sue for the money that they are owed. We don't have to pick up the phone and say, I'm going to sue you or anything like that. We just have to get a form right off the internet, fill it out, get it signed by an attorney. Don't have to be an attorney. Take it down to the court and put in the form. Just do it. That's all we have to do. As far as announcing their names, you know, I mean, people who owe that much money, they've got letter after letter, time after time. They know who they are. I mean, I'm sorry, but, you know, saying, well, you got last one last chance or we're going to sue you, it doesn't really make that any sense at all.
And Sharon, I think that Dave is making a very cogent point that goes to giving someone who owes this much money notice. They've had more than adequate notice over more than several years that they owe this money. This doesn't happen overnight. That somewhere between $800 and $900 a year. You know, that's 5 years worth of back dues that they're in the hole for 4 years plus fees and costs or whatever it works out to. So what's going to happen if you institute this policy is if someone really wants to fight it, or if they really want to do something about it, they're going to come back to you. And they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to go to court on this. Can we work out some sort of program to solve this? If they don't say that, they're saying to you, okay, take me to court. And let's see what happens. Again, I still think that Mr. Clark is right in that we should be getting much more aggressive, particularly about the large offenders, and he's targeted this exactly at the large offenders.
Principle-wise, 5 years is $3,800. So you got to go 5 years to get to where I'm talking about.
Yep.
Robert?
Sir?
The question have to administer this and send out a letter. Would you have a problem with a letter to go out and say this is going to be done within 30 days, or?
I appreciate you asking. I'm required by March 1st to give you all an update on the delinquent assessments, exactly where we are, the process, the progress we've made or have not made. What I would actually ask you to consider is give us till that deadline, and I will follow up with Mr. Moore's office, either through Joe Moore or Chris Woodley, and get the small claims court process identified for you so you know exactly not only what it costs, and I believe Mr. Stevens is correct, as well as Mr. Clark, it doesn't have to be an attorney to go down and follow small claims. But why don't I get the actual facts on that and have that as part of what I bring to you with the delinquent assessments, you know, the update and all the information so you know exactly what's been occurred. I don't know that 30 days one way or other will make a difference, and it will give you the opportunity to hear directly a couple of these pieces so everyone's, you know, off working off the same page.
It's gonna cost what it's gonna cost. You know, it's gonna cost what it's gonna cost.
Actually, Mr. Clark, I agree with that. It wasn't just a cost factor for us. We try to work out payment plans. There's a lot of other factors that go into our collection efforts, and there's a lot of people that are struggling with some things right now, and we take it on case by case and try to work with them. I just would like the ability to present to you what our process is in its entirety, explain how we do it to the board as a whole before you take action on it. That's all.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're really getting at or I can't read your mind. But I can tell you that we had, I guess about a year ago, I think in this room, sitting up there, a big meeting. It was kind of a little surprise too, unfortunately, but two major subjects were put up, and one was going through detail by detail everything that was done in the collection process. And does anybody else?
Yeah, Bobby did that.
I mean,
yes, he did. Yeah.
And of course, since we didn't see anything in advance, we weren't exactly prepared for questions. It happens a lot. But at the same time as that, we still had that other meeting where I said, well, why are we not going to small claims court? I asked that a year ago. And you said something about, well, that's not a process. I can't remember your exact answer, but it was kind of in the, we don't want to do that kind of thing. And Joe Moore was in that meeting, and well, we can't do that because, and Joe was, and actually, I mean, I want to see. I mean, the thing I disagree with Maury's thing is the $5,000. I don't see why it has to be that high. I mean, I would start almost embedding this as part of our process. You didn't pay your assessment. You got this letter, you got that letter, you got this letter. Okay, now, at the point in time where you would start to say, well, just don't even tell them. You just go down to small claim court. They say, you know, you have to appear at a certain date. Just do it. Just do it. And I think doing it at the first time around would save us a whole lot more problems. We wouldn't get to the $5,000 limit if we simply embedded it as a systematic. You remember I called up Ruth Ann and asked her the question about how many of our debtors were out of town. The reason was because I needed to know whether we had to sue, how much should we sue in our own jurisdiction to keep the cost down. Right. And which is, but you know, you see my frustration. I really don't like this 100%, but I'd vote for it just to get something started.
I'm hearing two, and I'm not against this, so I'm really not. I'm just trying to clarify. First of all, if you're going to do something like this, we've got to establish a date upon which the balances are established. Whatever date that is. If it's tomorrow, if it's a month from now, you've got to say what the date is. That if it's 5,000. The other piece of it is the definition of this part of this that says legal action. I would insert some wording in there that to potentially include small claims court filing. Because Dave is bringing in the small claims court solution.
That's what that is.
And that's what
that's what that is. That's
That's what it says.
You mean
what
it
it
should?
says.
Yeah,
It should be specific what action you're talking about.
Sue
Well, sue could be big court, be small claims,
in
whatever.
any court of competent jurisdiction.
So appropriate.
Yeah.
Sue should take out legal action, put in sue.
I'll make one change to the motion. Let's call the question. If whoever seconded my motion, can we just take immediate out? Give Bob some time to get his feet wet on this. And then, if we pass this motion, we got to remember the people that are having tough times, hard times, they're out of their jobs, and they're carrying $112 of some surfboard who's probably watching cable television right now, drinking an ice cold beer and laughing at us.
I don't think you're getting a whole lot of pushback against this.
Well, it's $112 for each of us.
Yeah. What I would, you're taking out the word immediate.
Is that okay with my second?
Yeah, I agree
Call
with
the
that.
question.
Can we substitute legal lawsuit for legal action?
Well, it's really saying that, but you initiate
Lawsuit.
So what you're saying
Lawsuit.
is to
That's what
do
we
this
actually-
immediately, put it in the press, immediately file
I took
a
immediate
suit.
out.
She took an immediate.
But it's not immediate. If you owe $5,000, you haven't paid for 5 years.
I understand that. I want
Nothing
to
immediate about it.
understand what you are saying, because I'm not clear. Are you saying that next week it appears in the newspaper, and next week this all goes to a court?
That wouldn't happen that fast. It would be up to Bob.
Let me see. You just made the comment of putting the wording in here to give Bob a chance to soak in it to get ready for it. What if we established a month or whatever? What month? What is the date of the report?
March 1st.
March 1st. Based on a March 1st date. Put March 1st in there as the date. That gives some time to work out the process because of what this actually means. We can debate the 5,000. We may very well come back and make it 1,000 at some point in the future.
Want to read it back again?
Yeah, all I'm asking you to do, and you're the motion maker,
I got it right here.
insert somewhere in here that
Got it.
based on March 1st's amount owed to us.
Line 3.
Yeah.
Association members who failed to pay charges made by the association in excess of $5,000 and on or before the 1st of March 2013 initiate legal action.
No, well, that's both things. The March 1st applies to the 5,000 as well. In other words, they owe us $5,000 on March 1st. That starts the process, is what I'm saying. That based as of March 1st, they owe $5,000. Then you do the lawsuit the minute that it starts. Now you have a fixed date.
Okay. Paid charges made by the association who, as of March 1, 2013, are in excess of $5,000. And on or before that date, initiate legal action suing against those, I don't like suing, legal action is suing. Legal action against those members for such unpaid interest, costs, reasonable attorney fees, blah, 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 blah. Is that okay with my second?
Yes.
Mr. Secretary, do we have the language here? Or do we need a break to make sure we have the language?
We have the language on page, so we have the language.
Does that include the blah, blah, blah?
Yes, sir, all the way there.
Wait, I still want a clarification, I'm sorry. So it's going in the paper on March 1st, or by whatever the dates are close to March 1st. And we are, at the same time, initiating legal action. We're not giving them an opportunity to make it right.
Oh, yeah, they've got that from right now.
They've had that for 5 years.
Okay. But when I've seen things in the paper in the past, if someone hasn't paid their taxes, and it goes in the paper, and then quite often those things have been, once they're in the paper, it becomes public knowledge, and people respond to that. And that's why I would like to see a time frame, a 30-day period or something, and then institute legal action.
I just gave you more than 30 days. It's not going to happen on March 1.
You know, what I'm saying from it going in the paper, whatever day we choose. In this case, we're just talking March 1st. So by March 1st, we put it in the paper. April 1st, then we initiate legal
No,
action.
we're not actually saying March 1st, we're saying the date. The March 1st date is to establish on that day. Somebody comes in on March 29th and pays their bill. They're off the hook. They're done. If they haven't paid on March 1st, they fall into this category. At that point, the process administered by the GM publishes, based on a process developed by him, of what that is, and the legal action is taken by the association to go after the money.
It happens simultaneously. They're not getting 30 days.
It only takes a couple of days to do the legal.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I would assume, in the newspaper.
I would think so.
We can put it in the...
May I,
Okay, let's call the question.
I'll call the question on this motion. I need the motion to be read one last time, Marty.
I was afraid of that.
You knew I was going to.
Without the blah blahs?
Without the blah blahs, yeah.
I move that the Board of Directors instruct the General Manager, in compliance with our Declaration of Restrictions, Articles of Reinstatement, and Resolution F-04, to publish the names of association members who, as of March 1, 2013, have failed to pay charges made by the association in excess of $5,000. And on or before March 1st, 2013, initiate legal action against those members for such unpaid charges, interest, costs, and reasonable attorney fees in any court of competent jurisdiction for a debt owed by the delinquent member or members to the association.
Okay, now I have one operational issue with when the lawsuit has to be filed, because it says on or before March 1st. You can't possibly have filed the lawsuit on March 1st if they've got till the end of February to pay the bill. So that wording doesn't work.
The second March 1st.
The second March 1st doesn't need to be in there.
Right.
On and before does not.
Yeah.
Just do that,
Okay.
Okay, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And I will second that.
Okay, all right. All right, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Who was opposed?
Nobody was opposed. All right.
Anybody abstained?
that was unanimous.
Okay,
Now-
next is Ray Under. You have
Yeah,
a-
now for for us, the board to review an ARC decision, appeal from Hal Wilding, Hal Winding, I'm sorry, Pops.
Okay.
C. Pearlane regarding his home application. Mr.
Okay. I'd just like to say to Mr. Graves, I did get with Mr. Turner and Mr. Dino, who helped me arrange
Sir,
this.
We can't
correct
hear
up
you.
here, please.
Okay.
We can't hear
You
you.
guys want to get into an argument? You
No,
do that
it's
later.
no
You
argument.
talk to us.
I just
didn't
want
say
to
a
bring
word.
to his attention that Mr. Dino and Mr. Ken Turner helped me with my home occupancy. And I'm bringing this presentation to you for your approval.
Okay.
On January 8th, 2013, at the administration building, I was supposed to have a chance to present my home occupancy requirements for my home-based business. Instead, the proceedings gave no jurisprudence to the validity of my rights as a resident of Ocean Pines and of the county and the state in which to have a home-based business. It was, quite frankly, a kangaroo court. The opposing residents evidently discussed some issues concerning my rights as a resident to have a small home business and its conduction. Apparently, the request for my occupancy of this small business was denied. Millions of citizens carry on a home business. Mr. Montgomery, who chaired the hearing, did not allow me to present my complete presentation as I'm doing now, as the nature of my business and its operation. I do a very low volume of business and have very few customers on Saturday and Sunday that I'm open. I sell collectible, used sword items from churches, from the AGH thrift shops, and it's like recycling, and I help the church and they help me, and I help rather poor people that come to the Pines. I have fulfilled all the requirements according to Ocean Pines Association for a home-based business permit, of which I had paid the fees, and work with Mr. Ken Turner and Mr. Dino to understand and complete these regulations. I have occupancy within structure for my porch. I conduct occupancy incidental to primary resident with no window signs on the porch. I don't have more than 25 of gross floor included. The supplies in occupation are stocked on the premises are all used. They include collectibles, novelties, and souvenirs. I am the sole conductee of business and have no employees. I have ample parking in my driveway for my clients, and I have attempted in my due diligence to follow all the regulations of the state and the OP Association to exercise my right to have and operate a home-based business. I appreciate the consideration of the board for my appeal to permit my business.
Okay. Pops, as probably everybody knows, there are literally hundreds of businesses operate out of homes in Ocean Pines. All kinds.
May I sit?
Yeah, you sure sit down.
All right, thanks.
All kinds of things that are done in any type of business. And there are people that are clients of these businesses that goes to the home. The biggest thing that we had, as far as our regulations are concerned, is sign advertising or advertising to bring them there. These other businesses don't have signs out, we're open this weekend, this type of thing.
Yeah, I'm in Coastal Dispatch.
If you conduct your business where there is no signage, aiming at the house or no sign on the front porch, I'm open now, come on in,
right,
then you would be in compliance just like most other businesses are. Now, I understand you weren't doing that, but you understand that that's what you have to do now. Is that
right,
correct?
That is correct, for Mr. Dino and Mr. Ken Turner.
Okay, sir.
Yes?
Any other comments?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's...
I wasn't, I was not, unfortunately, at the particular meeting in which Mr. Winwin made his presentation. I can say, reading the first paragraph of what you have to say. I did, however, attend the very next meeting board. I also spoke to Birmingham Block twice on the phone. Once, when he gave you an update on what was happening, and the second time when this came up before the board. I also talked to Lucia Schwartz, who's at the board, and Jeff Schote is back there. And so let me just say that the representation of what actually happened, from at least 4 different sources, you might not call them independent, but in fact, this is not what happened. Mr. Wendling was given a fair chance to present his argument. a permit, and that permit was denied by the committee. In reading this, I can see no reason why the committee did not act correctly in this case. In fact, there was quite a whole lot of things that were going on. I mean, for an example, Mr. Wendling advertised in the papers that, the shop was open for business. And the neighbors, unlike just getting together, were concerned both at the vehicle and foot traffic. Some of the things, he may in fact comply with, but that doesn't mean that he complies with all of them. Nothing other than parts or supplies used in the occupation shall be stocked on the premises. Nothing sold except what is produced on the premises or permitted by special exception of the committee. That's item 700.2D. After the committee gave its decision, I am told by multiple sources that Mr. Wellington flagrantly ignored it and put the signs up, directing people to his property. So, we have an ARC. I've been their liaison for 2 years. They're not perfect. And I think people do and should have a right to appeal to the court. But I believe in this case, the ARC made the correct decision. I think they acted fairly and politely, and I think they listened to what was being said. And unless somebody here has some, good reason to overturn that decision, I believe you should let this matter pass.
I do have a question, Mr. White. Do you have a Worcester County permit?
No, it's not necessary. Mr. Jim Kerner told me that I didn't have to get it. It used to be in the regulations, but it was taken out. I just found this out, just like I found a lot of other things out. And that's why I'm here, to do the right thing.
Okay. I have a procedural question, Mr. President, and I don't know if anyone here can answer it, but I don't know whether the board has the authority to overturn or affirm or do anything else with an ARC decision. I suspect that the only thing that we could really do in this particular case is send it back to the ARC to be reheard. And I put it to you that I think we need an answer to that question before we make a decision.
I don't know if there is a right, he's appealing it to us, but whether or not he's in compliance now with all the things that he was out of compliance with before, that he would have to, you're right, represent that to the ARC to see if they would overturn it, but I don't think we can override what they've said to do with it.
I have had this issue investigated a couple of years ago as to what we as a board, and it depends on who's reading the words. For all intents and purposes, the board of directors, as it was interpreted for me back then, has the authority to refer something back to the ARC for re-review. As far as overturning it, the assessment that I was given 2 years ago was that we can remove the ARC and eliminate it and repopulate it with people. But it is a debatable item as to whether we have the authority to reverse it or not. The issue that I would like to get clarified here is, did you, after the ruling came down that says you couldn't do these things, did you in fact put signs up after you were told not to?
I did, because I talked with Mr. Turner and I talked to the police department then, and I also discussed it with Mr. Bob Thompson about the unfairness, and that's why I did it.
Okay, so you
Yes,
took it
I
upon
was
your...
just treated so unfairly.
Okay.
I
Well,
felt.
it's been reported here from
Yeah.
a very reasonable source.
I was heckled to death. I had to leave. It was best for me to leave because there was a couple heckling me in the back, and it was, rather than have a controversy when there's two arguments, one person shuts up and leaves, there's no argument.
That is your testimony of what, well,
Yes.
testimony, whatever you want to call it. It's your view of what happened.
Yeah, right.
The report that I just got from a very reasonable source says that it was a very fair and open discussion at the ARC. I will turn to the board at this point.
Before you do, look quick.
Sure.
You know, the declaration of restrictions are clear. And somewhere along, I guess, it authorizes the committee, which has always been sort of standalone. And I'm the first one to arm wrestle with the ECC, and pretty sure everybody knows that. But allow reasonable variances and adjustments to the restrictions. I don't know if we want to set a precedent I can see if Pop, may I call you Pop?
Sure.
If Pop is, looking now at adjusting the signage and the ways to conduct business, that he fits into where the committee wants to hear him again, then that's a whole new ballgame. I don't care what happened behind us.
Well, that's good. To me, that is the ARC's mission in life, is to do the work of making that decision. That's not our decision. That's why they're there.
So, well, I mean, what are you deciding? Are you deciding that we can't overturn the ARC?
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not ruling that at all.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
saying,
It's good because
yeah, I'm not making that ruling.
what
Because I
Marty
don't know.
read, if you look at the declaration, the earlier declarations of restrictions did have something in them to that effect. And however, it's pretty clear that they were doing or referring to what the ARC was, or EC was doing at that time, which was looking at buildings and building permits, and those were the kinds of issues that they were deciding on. And they were, and I think probably wisely at the time, they wrote the documents that you couldn't overturn them.
Yeah, the
And
issue.
they were the same. However,
Newer ones were different.
the newer ones were different for the logical reasons that we had developers, perhaps rather than individual builders and whole communities that went in at the same time. Now,
When you say newer ones, you're talking about newer sections.
I'm talking about newer sections.
Newer sections. Yeah, the newer sections, the language.
Gotcha.
And so that language was specifically taken out, okay? And the board was put in as, I can't remember the words, the Court of Appeals. Now, the thing is, too, that the board, we're no longer, looking at the ARC. It could happen, and has happened in the last meeting, where you're looking at a new construction and you're looking at for variances in the new construction. I would hesitate to say that we have the authority to do that, especially if the new construction was in one of the older sections. But what we're talking about here are design guidelines that were approved by the Board of Directors.
Yeah, I think
a committee that was appointed by the Board of Directors, and I think it probably is our responsibility to act in this regard. Although, I think you have to have a very good reason, and I've heard none, to believe that the ruling should be overturned. And sending it back to them, I don't think is necessary.
I think the issue is that Marty has said that if Pop wants to reapply, then he can certainly do that.
You can do that.
He can do that if he wants to reapply. My advice would be to stop putting the signs up until you do that.
Yes, sir.
Because that's
Right.
That's just my advice to you.
Exactly.
But I'm not getting a sense that this board is in any position or has any intent to make a. Does anybody want to make a motion to overturn this or to return it to the ARC?
Nobody's going to overturn.
No, the motion that I would make would be that we give the option to Pops to reapply.
He already has that.
He already has that option, that we go ahead and send it back to ARC.
Well, that's up to him. That's up to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I just say one thing more, just kind of for the record? You know, if you look under section 600, which is the section on signs, under B, disposition of unauthorized signs, the CPI will attempt to contact the owner of the sign or flag. Owners may recover signs and flags from the wherever. And I'm not going to have page 30 on it. Just to finish reading what I'm saying. Yes, I do. I do right here. Association, upon payment of a fee to be determined by the board of directors, signs not recovered within 60 days will be destroyed. So any signs appearing, and I would hope our CPI would enforce this, any signs appearing on your house, in your yard, or anywhere on the parkway or the public streets will be immediately removed by the CPI and held for you, and basically you can get them back on paying the fee.
But they don't work on
Mr. Turner,
Being there no motion on the floor to take any action in this, we're moving on.
Well, one more thing. I agree completely. When I was an ECC inspector years ago, I volunteered to work Friday and Saturday and was told we don't need to have that. But most all of the violations occur, just like Joe said, on the weekend. And there's nobody there to find them or do anything about it.
That's correct. They should be. We should have something.
Okay. Well, Bob, you can take that under advisement of manage through that. Okay, Pops, thank you very much. We gave you your shot.
That's it. Thank you.
Free to go back and reapply.
Okay, thanks.
But
Well, I'll have to pay the other.
action on
I'll
this.
have to pay the new $30, right?
I don't.
Whatever.
Right, whatever.
Okay.
Whatever the rules are.
Whatever the rules are, follow them.
I will.
Next thing on the agenda is just, I sent this out in an email and handing it out. I have the proposed search committee for the upcoming election. Jim Weisler, chair. Tom Sadowski, Janet Morris, Ron Fisher, and Gene Lewis as members of that committee. That's my proposed list of the folks to work on the search committee. I've had discussions with Jim Weisler about having an open meeting for the community, to meet with the community and have those discussions. But I need approval.
What are their names again, Tom?
Without objection.
What are their names again?
Mr. President.
I'll be glad to read them again.
Just to correct one of the names. Gene Lewis is Louis.
Louis, okay. Sorry,
She is the one who's married to Bill.
he's the one married to Bill, yeah. Right. Yeah, names. I'll be glad to. Chairperson is Jim Weisler. The members of the committee are Tom Sandusky, Janet Morse, Ron Fisher, and Gene Lewis. Spelled
Motion to accept.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Actually, it's without objection.
I don't
So
think
you're
Without
right.
objection, we're.
Well, that ship sailed.
That ship's sailed. Okay. I have a whole group of appointments here to committees. I'll go through them as they are stacked here. We have Lisa Schwartz for the Architectural Review Committee. Dave, you signed this as the liaison. Paperwork is done. Any objections to that?
She is eminently qualified.
Okay. No objections. She's accepted.
Is she a full-time person or part-time?
Doesn't matter.
Lisa
Doesn't matter.
Schwartz. She's a full-time person, although she's retired.
No, not living here. Is she a full-time ECC member or a fill-in when somebody else isn't there?
Oh, no, she's full-time. Full-time.
Okay.
Full-time. John Trumpauer for the Budget and Finance Committee. Terry, you signed this one.
No, I did.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Terry Moore.
Pay no attention.
I know you look at members a lot, Marty. Okay, without objection. Tom Staus, member of the Aquatics Committee.
That's questionable. That's questionable.
That one's very questionable.
We need to have a discussion about that.
Discussion on that one. Any objections in real for that?
What the heck?
Oh, what the heck. Kathy Grimes for the Aquatics Committee, another one I signed.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Kathy was kind enough to include her resume along with her application. Her current occupation is president of American Pool Management / Resorts out of Ocean View, Delaware. I will not endorse this particular candidate for a position on the committee because I think it's a conflict of interest and not in Ocean Pine's best interest to put her on.
Okay. Is the conflict of interest because she would bid for business or because she has bid for business?
I understand that she has toured and considered bidding for business in the past. You can bet your. I think that in fact she would bid for business if it were in their scope of business. And coming down in the future, I do not want people on committees who are not totally independent.
She is so qualified, and she really doesn't have any influence over the board. And I would expect she would recuse herself if it came down to, I don't know her. I don't know her at all. I love having a person that's in the business and knows what's going on. We're talking today about a swimming pool. What's it cost? Wouldn't it be nice to have somebody on a committee that just built one?
It's second removed. That's what Marty is saying. We make decisions. I can't even remember the last time an advisory committee has. Can you remember when an advisory committee has said to the board, "Hey, you should select this company"? Or to the management. We sit here and we.
Well, let me. Although I signed the application because I wanted to bring it forward, let me bring forward the other side of this is in a competitive bidding situation. If Kathy is sitting on the advisory committee of the aquatics committee, and I'm torn both ways on this one because I'm like Marty, I'm looking at his resume going, I'd love to have the knowledge that she's got. At the same time, is she going to get an unfair advantage by serving, but she's not getting paid to serve, she's a volunteer. We've already got the rule that if you're paid by Ocean Pines, you can't be on one of these committees. She's not being paid to be here. So she's volunteering to be on the committee. I served on a lot of committees when I was in Verizon, and coming out of being on those committees, I helped Verizon get business, and nobody raised any heck about it.
Yeah, I'll offer an example too. One of the people, I'm only going to forget his name. One of the people, oh Lord, I'm sorry, but Becker and Morgan, who?
You're right. Good example. I can't think of the guy's name either.
That's why Marty and I hang out.
Was on the
Bill C. Bill C. Has been one of the greatest volunteers in Ocean.
Giant asset. Would you agree?
His company bid on I don't know how many things, and then the Beach Club and Becker and Morgan. And I don't ever remember them winning the darn thing.
Legitimate concern, without question. Let's see, Ray, Terry.
Well, if you do find that there is some conflict, I think she be excused from the committee.
Sure.
Recuse yourself.
Recuse herself.
Well, not herself. Suppose somebody from the committee comes and says, this doesn't seem right.
All right, well.
And the board did it.
Yeah, the bid process is supposed to be an open process.
I'm not just talking about bids, though.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, her lifeguards or our lifeguards.
Okay. Let's make a decision on this one. All those in favor of Kathy to be on the committee?
Aye.
Opposed? No consciousness, I'm going to vote against the two, but she's in. I understand the concern.
Did you catch that?
Who voted for it?
I have.
2 against.
It's 2 against Kupersky and Terry. Against.
Stephen Lind for the clubs committee.
Where is he work?
Our competition retired.
She was at least honest and gave us the resume.
Sure.
I'm fine.
Fine with it? Any
I
objection?
signed it.
Okay. Don Claggett.
You missed one.
Well, I'm going by the way they're stacked in front of me, so.
Okay.
Who am I missing?
Wayne Littleton was also for clubs, and we need to
Must
verify
be
Les
stuck.
Purcell's a new chairman.
I don't have,
Yeah, I don't have that one either.
You don't have Littleton? I'm glad you shared.
No, that's here.
no, I know, here it is, I do
It's in
have
the
it.
back.
It must be
It
stuck.
is.
It's in
Okay,
the back.
I'll just, Wayne Littleton for the clubs committee.
And I've
Any
signed it.
objections?
Nope.
Les Purcell as chairman of the Red.
Let me think about that.
Ah,
Put it on record that Dave is worried about that one. No problems there. Okay, now can I move to Don Claggett?
yes, please.
Communications?
That's a
Objections?
reappointment.
Reappointment.
Reappointment?
Margaret Long, reappointment.
Reappointment, she's in.
Don LaFawn, reappointment.
Yeah, all of those.
Okay. Takes care of that, thank you. And CPI, we are holding to the next meeting. Media questions?
Has there been any further movement on the Section 3 flooding situation to solve the problem using River Run? Have those contracts been signed, do we know?
Yes, Mayor Martin.
Anybody who has an answer?
Have you talked to Jim Feinberg?
I talked to him the other night about it, and he just said that he thought they were looking at it could be as soon as February,
As soon as February.
that they begin actual moving stuff.
Does that mean that the contracts have been signed?
No.
No, it doesn't mean that, or
When
no,
you
you
say
don't?
contract, I don't even know what contract that would be.
Well, I understand that there were contracts that had to be looked at by Mr. Meltzer's attorneys.
I think it was all engineering, wasn't it? It was just engineering, and I think that's resolved.
Okay.
But again, I would ask Mr. Bunning.
Okay. My second question is that you were talking about publishing the names of delinquent members. Where are you going to publish those, and how are you going to publish those? Well, we have. There is a website.
That's a very fair question, and I think in my position, the way I took it, is that we would put that process in the hands of Bob, and Bob would tell us how he's going to do it, and we would go yes or no. So that hasn't been developed yet.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Take an adjournment to move into.
Adjourn to go into close.
Second.
I'll say.
All those in favor? All right.
Are we going down there and staying
We're
there?
going to have a movement to go into questions and go into closed session. Just so I have a question. Well, I feel somehow or another voting to go into a closed session without having the foggiest idea of what we're going to talk about is not responsible on my part.